Chapter 777. Setting Sun Ancient City. Under the gaze of Marquis Dongji and Grand Preceptor, two figures left under the setting sun without any reluctance. The two of them accompanied each other day and night. Wherever the person beside them was, that was where their home was. The 5 regions were vast. From today onwards, they would travel thousands of mountains and watch the setting sun together. In front of the ancient city, Marquis Dongji and Grand Preceptor respectfully bowed to send off the Grand Xia's guardian. 3 months later, two figures appeared in the vast southern tomb. They were a celestial couple, looking at the beautiful rivers and mountains of southern tomb. On a mountain in the Jadoth sacred ground, Xiao Wuming, who was in seclusion, suddenly opened his eyes and looked outside the mountain. It's him. At the same time, Yan Hongzhu walked out from a nearby bamboo house. Her beautiful face was filled with unconcealable excitement. Senior brother is here. Sister Hongzhu, what's wrong? Jian Shui walked out with a puzzled expression. Senior brother Ning is here, Yan Hongzhu said softly. Ah! Jian Shui shouted in surprise. He actually came back. Two figures walked up the mountain together. Xiao Wuming appeared in the main hall. Looking at the young man walking in, his heart was filled with waves. Greetings, master. Ning Chen walked up and respectfully bowed. Good, it's good that you're back. Xiao Wuming walked up and helped him up. Xinu greets Senior Xiao. Beside Ning Chen, Xinu also respectfully bowed as she spoke. Xiao Wuming looked at the woman in front of him and suppressed the waves in his heart. He quickly nodded and said, Get up, get up. Senior brother. At this moment, Yan Hongzhu and Jian Shui quickly ran in from outside the hall. Their faces were filled with joy. Seeing the two of them, Ning Chen's eyes revealed a trace of gentleness. He smiled and said, Hongzhu, Shui, how have you been? Xinu stood to the side and quietly watched this scene. She had a faint smile on her face. This husband of hers was really lenient. Needless to say about Hongzhu, Jian Shui's gaze was clearly not right. She could still see the yearning look of a young girl. Yan Hongzhu and Jian Shui also noticed the fairy-like beautiful woman beside their senior brother. They immediately became nervous and guessed the identity of the woman in front of them. Xinu, leave with Hongzhu and Shui, for a moment. I have some things to say to master. Ning Chen looked at the people beside him and said softly. Xinu nodded. She looked at the two women in front of her and smiled. Hongzhu, Shui, let's go out first. Lian Hongzhu and Jian Shui hurriedly nodded and left with the former. After the three of them left, there were only 2 people left in the hall. Xiao Wuming looked at the person in front of him and asked, What's wrong? Is something the matter? Master, have you ever tried to break through to the treading immortal stage? Ning Chen asked. Xiao Wuming nodded, and said, I've tried 3 times, and failed all of them. I've suffered quite a bit of backlash. This realm is indeed harder to enter than I imagined. Master trusts me, Ning Chen said seriously. Xiao Wuming didn't hesitate any longer. He nodded lightly and said, I firmly believe you. Master, summon the dragon gate and try again. Leave the rest to me, Ning Chen said seriously. Xiao Wuming's eyes narrowed, and he nodded. All right. The two of them left the hall and went to the peak of the mountain. Xiao Wuming gathered his qi and released all of his cultivation. Immediately, the 9 heavens wind and thunder changed. Dark clouds rolled and thunder rumbled. In the next moment, the dragon gate appeared and floated in the air. Under the pressure of an incomparably powerful pressure, the entire Jadoth Holy Land began to shake. In an instant, all the disciples and elders of the Jadoth Holy Land looked at the mountain with serious expressions. Was the enforcement elder going to try to break through to the treading immortal stage again? At the peak of the mountain, a green-white figure soared into the sky. A sword appeared, and he merged with the sword. A sharp light pierced through the air. With a rumble, lightning descended and struck the green-white figure. The dazzling light illuminated the entire world. The sword split apart the lightning, and the lightning dissipated. The figure didn't stop when he reached the dragon gate. He continued to soar into the sky. The dragon gate sensed it, and countless runes shone brightly. An ancient and everlasting power of law descended and strengthened the body of the person undergoing the tribulation. In an instant, Xiao Wuming felt his body sink. Every step he took was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The 100-zhang-long dragon gate floated in the air. Standing before it, a human was like a grain of sand in the vast ocean. Layers of restraints were placed on his body, and he was as heavy as 1,000 mountains. The laws of heaven and earth obstructed him. Even someone at the peak of the Xiantian realm would find it difficult to pass the heavenly gate. Xiao Wuming's expression turned serious. His body was like a sword, and his body was surrounded by a green-white brilliance. He broke through the layers of restraints and continued to soar upwards. In the blink of an eye, half of the journey had passed. The runes on the dragon gate became more complicated, and the powerful restraining power became more and more shocking. It surpassed the peak of the Xiantian realm and reached the limit of the mortal world. Seeing that Xiao Wuming was gradually unable to endure, the white-clothed figure on the peak of the mountain moved for the first time. In an instant, she arrived in front of the dragon gate. With a wave of her left hand, her astral soul was unsheathed. Starlight filled the sky. With a loud rumble, the dragon gate trembled. The sword power that surpassed the limit of the mortal world instantly destroyed half of the dragon gate. The sky changed color. The dragon gate was damaged, and the power of law instantly weakened. Xiao Wuming only felt the restraints on his body loosen. In an instant, he soared into the sky. A mortal who crossed the dragon gate and stepped on the path to immortality. In the dazzling light, auspicious light descended from the sky, illuminating the dusky sky. Master succeeded. In front of the main hall, Xiao Hongzhu's face was filled with excitement. On the peak of the mountain, Xiao Wuming's aura continued to rise. Suddenly, his expression changed and he anxiously looked at the sky. But at this moment, thunder rumbled in the 9 heavens. A terrifying destructive power suddenly descended. At the moment of crisis, the white-clothed figure arrived and sent Xiao Wuming away with a flip of her palm. Immediately after, she took a step and soared into the sky. With a loud rumble, the sword light shook the thunder, rumbling and resounding throughout the universe. How could others interfere with a mortal's ascension to immortality? The heavens were furious, and thunder struck down to punish those who blasphemed the heavens. Knowing destiny was fearless. With a sword in hand, countless sword chi coiled around his body. There was no doubt that he was powerful. Even if he lost his foundation, he was still undeniably strong. There was only one on the sword. Heaven and earth received the order. Grass and trees became the sword. Everything became the sword. It was a shocking scene. On the peak of the mountain, rays of sword light soared into the sky. They coiled around the white-clothed figure and turned into a storm to resist the heavens. Is this the extreme Tao? Xiao Wuming stared at the sky in shock. The extreme Tao formed its own style. It was rare since ancient times, and all of them were virtuous paragons. However, how many years had he cultivated for? In the sky, the heavens' wrath descended. Thunder and fire surged. The white-clothed figure didn't dodge. The storm of sword intent around her soared into the sky, resisting the heavens' punishment head-on. Rumble after rumble could be heard from 10,000 miles away. The insufferably arrogant heavens would never allow a heaven-defying person to exist in this world. It was a world-shaking battle. Humans resisted the heavens. Thunder roared and sword light weaved. In front of the main hall, Xiao Hongzhu and Jian Shuai were so shocked that they couldn't speak. They knew that their senior brother was very strong. However, only now did they know what a true expert was. At the side, Xinu looked at the sky. Her expression was calm and gentle. She knew how he had survived all these years. The heavens had never protected him, nor did they have the qualifications to punish him. In the sky, the battle between humans and the heavens was getting more and more intense. Layers of thunder continued to descend. A sea of thunder engulfed the white-clothed figure. Sword art, nothingness. With a slash of her sword, 10,000 swords responded. The sword that broke through the sky broke through layers of thunder and lightning, soaring up into the sky. Amidst the thunder and lightning, Bai walked out. Step by step, she walked towards the peak of the 9 heavens. The sword light engulfed the dark clouds. The thunder and lightning in the sky dissipated as the sun appeared, illuminating the earth. Heavens, you still can't do anything to me. Ning Chen calmly spoke. After that, he turned and walked down. On the mountain peak, Xiao Wuming walked up and asked, "How are you?" "Thank you for your concern, master." "I'm fine." Ning Chen softly replied. Looking at the 3 people walking over from afar, a warm smile appeared on his face. "Senior brother, you are too powerful." Jian Shui, excitedly ran up and grabbed Ning Chen's arm. "Are you alright?" Xinu asked. "I'm fine." Ning Chen shook his head and softly replied. "Shui, Xiao Hongzhu pulled the excited girl over and reminded her. Only now did Jian Shui, realize that she had lost her composure. She smiled in embarrassment and retracted her hands. Ning Chen smiled and didn't mind. Back then, when he was on the mountain, this girl was like a little hedgehog. She had the temperament of a child. "Senior brother, I also want to step into the immortal treading realm. Can you help me too?" Jian Shui, eagerly looked at Ning Chen. "Ha!" Ning Chen lightly laughed and said, "Do you think it's so easy to step into the immortal treading realm? Hongzhu is still fine, but with your current cultivation, even if I help you, it's impossible. You are just biased." Jian Shui, wrinkled her nose and mumbled. Xiao Hongzhu helplessly pulled her over and softly said, "Shui, senior brother didn't lie to you. You have only cultivated for a short time. You can't be anxious." After that, Xiao Hongzhu looked at the person in front of her and said, "Senior brother, I should accumulate some more time. I feel that stepping into the immortal treading realm too quickly isn't necessarily a good thing." Ning Chen nodded and said, "You are right. Your cultivation is inferior to master's. You really can't step into the immortal treading realm too quickly. Otherwise, once your foundation is unstable, it will be difficult for you to advance in the future. Ning Chen, you helped me pass the tribulation and consumed quite a bit of energy. Hongzhu and Shui, will bring you to rest first," said Xiao Wuming. "Okay." Ning Chen nodded and said, "Master also needs to stabilize his cultivation as soon as possible. Xinu and I won't disturb you any longer." At the side, Jian Shui's large eyes turned and she pulled the hand of the woman beside her and said, "Sister Xinu, I will bring you to rest." "Okay, then I will thank Shui, Xinu gently smiled and replied. "Master, we will take our leave first." Ning Chen clasped his fists and bowed before leaving with the 3 of them. Xiao Wuming looked at the departing back of the former, his eyes flashing with gratification and admiration. The younger generation would surpass the older generation. In just a few short decades, this child was already not weaker than anyone else. "Sister Xinu," Jian Shui, softly called out on the way. "What is it?" Xinu replied. "What is senior brother's cultivation realm now?" asked Jian Shui, curiously. Xinu thought for a moment and said, "It's hard to say. If I have to say, he should be at the peak of the Xiantian realm." "Ah!" Jian Shui's face was filled with shock. Senior brother is so powerful that he can even help the enforcement elder step into the immortal treading realm. Why is he still at the peak of the Xiantian realm? Xinu sighed lightly and said, he can help Senior Xiao step into the immortal treading realm, but it doesn't mean that he can succeed as well. If the heavens don't allow it, what can the masses do? Chapter 778. In the Jadoth Holy Land, a bright moon hung high in the sky. Under the moon, there was a person wearing plain clothes standing in front of a bamboo house, looking at the bright moon in the sky. Xinu walked out from the bamboo house and stood beside him. Her hair casually fell behind her back. Her face without any makeup was still flawless and devastatingly beautiful. It's cold outside. Why did you come out? Ning Chen returned to his senses. Looking at the girl beside him, a gentle expression appeared on his face. I couldn't sleep, so I came out to take a look. Xinu smiled. Ning Chen gently pulled her into his embrace and asked, are you cold? I'm not cold. Xinu shook her head. We'll leave tomorrow. Ning Chen said softly. You haven't come back for so many years. Why don't you stay for a few more days? Xinu leaned on the shoulder of the person beside her. No need. Ning Chen shook his head. We'll have to part in the end. A day earlier or a day later doesn't make a difference. I'll listen to you. Xinu replied. Not far away, in a small courtyard with exquisite decorations, Jian Shui, was lying on a table, staring at the candlelight in a daze. Sometimes she would laugh foolishly, sometimes she would be worried. After a long time, she looked at the girl beside her and said, Sister Hongzhu, let's have senior apprentice brother teach us sword techniques tomorrow. Even the enforcement elder said that his sword techniques are unparalleled in the world. Hongzhu sighed. Shui, I'm afraid your wish won't come true. Senior apprentice brother won't stay in Jadoth for long. He might even leave tomorrow. So fast? Jian Shui, was startled. Senior apprentice brother only came today. He should stay for a few more days. Hongzhu shook her head. Senior apprentice brother immediately helped master break through to the treading immortal realm. He's clearly in a hurry to leave. The smile on Jian Shui's face disappeared. So he returned to Jadoth just to help the enforcement elder enter the treading immortal realm. Shui, do you still remember why senior apprentice brother came to Jadoth? Hongzhu asked softly. Jian Shui, was startled. Then she recalled and said, to borrow the Jadoth divine cauldron to revive a woman. Hongzhu nodded. The woman in the ice coffin back then wasn't the princess of the Grand Xia that senior apprentice brother married. With my understanding of senior apprentice brother's character, he's not a fickle person. However, I still don't understand the reason behind this. Could it be that that woman can no longer be revived? Jian Shui, guessed. I don't think so. Hongzhu shook her head and said, you should know how stubborn senior brother is. He won't give up so easily. If that woman really can't wake up, senior brother won't marry anyone. But if that woman is awake, why did senior brother marry this princess? I can't guess. Jian Shuier shook her head vigorously and said. In addition, when senior apprentice brother helped master undergo tribulation today, I didn't sense any true chi flow from senior apprentice brother's body. Even if senior apprentice brother's strength is much greater than mine, it shouldn't have been like that. It's really difficult to understand what's so strange about it, sighed Hongzhu. Jian Shui had a worried look on her face as she said, senior martial brother has too many secrets and has never told us. If he leaves this time, we don't know when he will return. Hongzhu walked out of the house and looked at the bamboo house not far away. Her beautiful eyes flashed with sadness. Today, they were not fated to be together. She only hoped that he would be happy. In front of the bamboo house, Xinu who was leaning against her husband suddenly smiled. Husband, can I ask you something? What's wrong? Ning Chen asked curiously. Could it be that you really can't sense what Shuier and Hongzhu are thinking? Xinu lightly smiled. Ning Chen was startled. Soon after, a helpless expression appeared on his face. I am Hongzhu's senior apprentice brother. I am no different from her elder brother. As for Shue'er, she is just a little girl. She has always had the temperament of a child. When I first came to Yuheng, she was the one who disliked me the most. Xianyu smiled. The thoughts of a woman can't be judged based on the surface. In this aspect, you aren't as clear as me. Qin Wentian smiled. You are right. Ah. Ning Chen lightly smiled. Our 9th princess is the smartest person. However, I am already married. What difference does it make whether she knows or not? It's not the same. Xianyu lightly shook her head. If you like someone, you have to at least let them know. This is even more important than whether there is a result or not. Ning Chen was silent. He did not say anything. Husband, I can only accompany you for 20 years. Your future path is still very long. It is too tiring to walk alone. Why don't you consider Hongzhu and Shue'er who like you? Xianyu softly muttered. Don't speak nonsense. Ning Chen lightly reprimanded her. His arm unconsciously tightened around her. The night passed peacefully. When the first rays of the morning sun shone down, Ning Chen brought Xianyu to bid farewell to Xiao Wuming. Outside the main hall, Hongzhu and Jian Shue'er's eyes were filled with reluctance. However, they did not say anything to persuade them to stay. Xianyu walked forward and whispered a few words into Hongzhu's ear. Then, she warmly smiled and bid farewell. Hongzhu was stunned. Looking at the departing figures, her eyes were filled with shock. Sister Hongzhu, what's wrong? Jian Shue'er was puzzled. Hongzhu returned to her senses and softly replied, let's talk when we return. Outside Yuheng Mountain, Ning Chen curiously glanced at the person beside him. He asked, what did you and Hongzhu talk about just now? This is a secret between women. I can't tell you. Xianyu lightly smiled. Ning Chen smiled. I am your husband. Can't you tell me? I can't tell you. Xianyu nodded. 6 months later, the two of them could no longer be seen in Nanling. When they reappeared, they had already arrived at the Western Buddhist homeland where Buddhist cultivators flourished. It was a pure land completely different from the Divine Prefecture and Nanling. Martial cultivators flourished there, and Buddhist cultivators could be seen everywhere. Tianfu Mountain, Western Jade Mountain, and Bodhi Valley were the 3 holy lands for Buddhist cultivators in the past. Under the 3 religions, temples of various sizes filled the land. The common people believed in Buddhism, and the martial cultivators cultivated Buddhism. Ning Chen once again arrived. Looking at the ruins of the battle with Xian Luo, he sighed emotionally. Indeed, every place in the world is different, Xianyu softly said. Compared to the other 4 regions, the Western Buddhist homeland has the least disputes. The people have faith, and their hearts have something to rely on. Comparatively speaking, there are fewer conflicts, said Ning Chen. Don't you dislike Buddhism? Xianyu looked at the person beside her and asked. What I dislike is not Buddhism, but those fake Buddhas who don't work. If even Buddhism can enslave the common people, using their faith to enslave the common people to work and contribute, then wouldn't the word Buddhism be false, said Ning Chen calmly. In this life, he knew many Buddhist cultivators, but there were very few who could bear the name of Buddhism. In the past, there was Sword Bodhi, who did not shave his hair, did not honor the precept of killing. For the common people, he spent 100 years chasing down Rong Lu, who brought disaster to the world. In the end, in order to stop the Nether King, he used his body to prove his Tao. Buddhism was in the heart, not in the mouth. Those fake Buddhas who spoke of benevolence, righteousness, and morality, and kept saying, Amitabha. Other than using their faith to enslave the common people, what did they do for their believers? Right, let's go to Changling to take a look. The noble woman has helped you so much. Since we have come to West Earth, we should pay her a visit, suggested Xianyu. N. Ning Chen nodded and softly responded. They should go. If not for the noble woman, he would have died more than 30 years ago. He could not forget the favor of saving his life. It was not something that could be repaid with a life scroll. In the ancient land of Changling, the 4 cauldrons rotated. The formation covered 100 li, making it difficult for people to move. As one of the forbidden lands of West Earth, the ancient land of Changling had never been a place that people were willing to come to. Those who trespassed on Changling's land had 9 lives and 1 death. Very few were able to walk out alive. In the West Earth where Buddhism flourished, the Changling noble woman was an existence that no one was willing to provoke. Strength was one, murderousness was another. Changling never appeared in the world, and did not participate in the struggles of the mortal world. However, those who dared to provoke the ancient land of Changling never returned. The noble woman did not have the heart of a bodhisattva. Back then, in order to search for the lost origin of the phoenix, she had sacrificed countless lives. Her conduct was decisive and vicious. Many Western Buddhist sects understood her. 2 months later, in the ancient land of Changling, 2 people arrived. They walked through the layers of formations towards the depths of the ancient land. The noble woman is really an extraordinary woman, Xinu said emotionally as she looked at the gradually disappearing path behind her. If you praise her in front of her, she will be happier. No one in Changling dares to flatter her, Ning Chen said with a light smile. Knowledge Marquis, speaking ill of others behind their backs is not the conduct of a gentleman. As she spoke, the void twisted and an otherworldly figure appeared. She was dressed in palace attire and did not have a speck of dust. The noble woman is joking, I am praising you, Ning Chen said with a smile. In these years in the mortal world, have you learned to be glib? The noble woman mocked the former and then walked in front of the other woman. She said softly, Xinu, welcome to Changling as a guest. I will take you in, let him slowly explore here. All right. Xinu covered her smile and responded. Knowledge Marquis, see you later. The noble woman glanced at the former and then pulled Xinu away. Her figure flashed and disappeared. Ning Chen stilled. He looked at the changing formations around him and had a helpless expression. A woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the sea. He had not expected the Changling noble woman to be so petty. In the secret lands of Changling, the noble woman brought Xinu around to look at the scenery of Changling. She did not ask about a certain person still trapped in the formations and pretended to have forgotten. Xinu found it funny but did not say anything. Her husband was unusually smart, but there were times when he was stupid. More than half a day later, Ning Chen spent a great deal of effort to walk out of the confinement formation. Seeing the 2 people talking and laughing at the stone table, he crestfallen went up to them. Oh, isn't this the Knowledge Marquis? Why did you take so much time to walk through a small formation? The noble woman glanced at him and mocked without restraint. The noble woman's skill in formations is unparalleled in the world. This one admires. Ning Chen sat down in front of the stone table, poured himself a cup of tea and said. You flatter me. I hate flattery the most. Otherwise, why is there no one in Changling who dares to flatter me? Don't you think so, Knowledge Marquis? The noble woman said neutrally. Cough cough. Hearing this, Ning Chen almost spat out the tea in his mouth. More than half a day had passed. Why was the noble woman still holding a grudge? At the side, Xinu patted the former's back and laughed secretly. It had been a long time since she saw someone who could make her husband suffer. Other than Sister Qing Ning, there was only this noble woman. Chapter 779. In the ancient land of Changling, in a day, New Chang brought Xinu to every corner of the secret realm. Changling had existed for thousands of years and had a long history. The scenery was like a paradise on earth, beautiful beyond compare. In the depths of Changling, in the Forbidden Land, the secret place where Ning Chen had once cultivated the life scroll in seclusion, Niu Chang and Xianyu walked over. Behind them, Ning Chen followed from a distance, not daring to disturb their mood of enjoying the scenery. Niu Chang glanced at the figure behind them. Her lips curved slightly as she said, "It seems that his personality has changed greatly after returning to the mortal world. Husband was originally a very gentle person." Xianyu looked back, a gentle smile appearing on her beautiful face. She said, "But the burden on his shoulders is too heavy, and he has to harden his heart." "Gentle, ha." Niu Chang laughed softly and said, "Only you can say this about him in the world. Niu Chang and husband are friends, you should understand husband. Unless he has no choice, husband dislikes fighting with others the most," Xianyu said softly. Niu Chang smiled and walked forward. She said, "Ahead is the Forbidden Land of Changling, and also the place where he cultivated the life scroll in the past. Shall we go in and take a look?" Xianyu nodded and followed after him. Ning Chen followed behind. Looking at the familiar land ahead, a hint of emotion flashed through his eyes. It really was a bitter memory that one did not want to recall. The Forbidden Land of Changling, a floating cauldron, a land with a strange terrain. It was naturally formed, and modified by the past masters of Changling. Now, it was the most unique place in the homeland of West Buddha. The flow of time was different from the outside world. While it could not compare to the time Forbidden Land, it was still rare in the mortal world. "Xianyu, do you know why Changling has such a magical place, but I am still the only one who can enter the immortal treading realm?" Niu Chang looked over at the woman beside her and asked. Xianyu shook her head, not understanding the reason. "Because of perseverance and lifespan." Niu Chang said seriously, "While the Forbidden Land of Changling can speed up the flow of time, it will also speed up the loss of lifespan. This pain and terror of feeling one's life being stripped away is not something ordinary people can endure. Cultivation is most important. If one cannot guard one's heart, one will go mad in the end and suffer a backlash." Xianyu looked back, a hint of pain in her eyes. He had not told her about these things. "Niu Chang, things are not as frightening as you say." Ning Chen stepped forward and said with a smile. Xianyu reached out and held the hand of the person beside her. She asked softly, "Is it true?" Ning Chen smiled helplessly and said, "If I want to quickly cultivate the revival scroll, I'll definitely have to suffer a little. However, it's not as exaggerated as your highness said. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to hold on until today." Xianyu's eyes flashed with tears. She knew that he was trying to console her. Even the mistress had said that the pain wasn't something ordinary people could endure. The truth might be even more torturous than what she had imagined. Jiming Marquis. The female Chang looked at the former and transmitted her voice, "If you don't quickly recover your cultivation, you won't have much time left. If you nod, I'll do my best to help you. Perhaps you'll even have a chance to step into the immortal treading realm before your lifespan runs out." "No need." Ning Chen smiled and shook his head, replying, "Xianyu doesn't have much time left. I only want to accompany her on this journey. In this life, I've already walked for too long, and I'm tired as well. The remaining time is enough for me to spend peacefully." The female Chang narrowed her eyes and continued, "What about that little princess of the barbarian dynasty? And Mu Qingxue? Do you really not have any regrets? With your current lifespan, you might not even have the chance to see them one last time. It's impossible for life to be perfect. Since we're destined to part when we meet, why should I let them experience the pain of separation again? Niu Chang, I appreciate your good intentions, but it's enough. Didn't you say that with my talent, it's already a miracle that I could reach this point? I've already obtained too much and I'm satisfied. I can't ask for more." Ning Chen smiled. The female Chang looked at the person in front of her. A moment later, she sighed and said, "In this life, can't you live for yourself once?" Ning Chen smiled. I've always lived for myself. I don't ask for no regrets, but I ask for no regrets. Go. Your time is precious. I won't keep you. The inner world is vast. See as much as you can. A hint of helplessness flashed through the female Chang's eyes. She looked at the two and said, "Thank you for your understanding." Ning Chen responded and bowed with cupped fists. He took the woman's hand and turned to walk out of Changling's forbidden lands. "If you have time, go to Northern Plains Heavenly Music Pavilion," the female Chang said from behind. Ning Chen stopped in his tracks and nodded. Then, he continued walking forward. "Heavenly Music Pavilion, is it the place that extended your life for 100 years? Xinu asked softly. "Yes." Ning Chen responded softly and said, "Nu Chang and the master of Heavenly Music Pavilion have some friendship. Back then, when my lifespan was exhausted, Nu Chang asked the master of Heavenly Music Pavilion to extend my lifespan for 100 years. Lifespan is set by the heavens. Extending a person's life is hard to imagine," Xinu said emotionally. "In the past, I didn't feel anything wrong. After thinking about it, it is indeed unusual." Ning Chen nodded and said with a serious expression, "In these years in sky beyond heaven, I have encountered many treading immortal realm experts. It is not easy for people as strong as Master Mo and Dawn Moon Tower Master to extend the lifespan of others. Back then, the Master of Heavenly Music Pavilion was only at great perfection. It is really inconceivable that she could do this. It should not be so simple. Otherwise, Heavenly Music Pavilion would not have been able to survive until now," Xinu guessed. "Indeed." Ning Chen nodded slightly and said, "Nu Chang must have her reasons for having us go to Heavenly Music Pavilion. I have not thanked her in person for extending my lifespan back then. This time, we can settle this matter on the way. Are we going now?" Xinu asked. "No rush." Ning Chen shook his head and said, "Northern Plains is too far from here. There is no rush. Let's go to Central Plains first, and then to Northern Plains." Worry flashed through Xinu's eyes. She knew that he had many unhappy memories in Central Plains. If he went back this time, wouldn't it open his scars again? "Don't think too much about it." Ning Chen tightened his grip on Xinu's hand. "It's all in the past. Qing Ning is fine in the end, so I've also let go of it." 5 months later, the two of them left the Western Buddha homeland and headed for the Central State. Another month later, the two of them appeared in the various famous mountains and ancient cities of Central Plains. They didn't stay for long each time. After admiring the scenery and culture, they quickly left. The survivors of Central Plains' various sects recognized the Knowing Destiny Marquis. But as soon as they reported back, they could no longer find any traces of them. For a time, the Central Plains' various sects were nervous. The cruel and bloody scene from back then was still vivid in their minds. In the Battle of Locket Mountain, the various sects experts had all died. Later on, the Knowing Destiny Marquis had massacred Central Plains, and the various sects' inheritances had practically been severed. Regardless of whether or not they had participated in the Battle of Devil Execution, they were all very clear on the reason. During the chaos of the Heavenly Sanctum, the Knowing Destiny Marquis' methods and strength were too terrifying. It made the various sects feel threatened. Killing Devil Execution was just an excuse, but no one had expected that the real Devil Execution would be forced out in the end. The entire Central Plains' vitality was greatly damaged, and it was difficult to recover even now. In the Zhao family's main hall, a secret report was presented in front of Zhao Yosu. It reported that the Knowing Destiny Marquis had appeared in Central Plains. After reading the report, Zhao Yosu fell silent. After a long time, she looked at the man kneeling in front of her and said, "Tell the branch sects to stop sending people to follow them." "Yes." The man respectfully accepted the order. After the man left, the various elders in the hall looked at the family master. They wanted to say something, but they didn't. The Zhao family didn't participate in the battle of devil execution, and the family master even helped them. This was a very good favor. If they could pull the knowing destiny Marquis to the Zhao family would undoubtedly become the overlord of Central Plains. Family master, an elder stood up and said. There's no need to say any more. Zhao Liusu raised her hand and stopped the elder from continuing. She said calmly, the rise and fall of the Zhao family should be decided by them. The knowing destiny Marquis doesn't care about worldly affairs anymore. If we rashly disturb him, it will only make him unhappy. But another elder stood up and said anxiously. Don't mention this again, Zhao Liusu said coldly. Hearing this, the elders of the Zhao family sighed. What a pity. Zhao Liusu looked into the distance and her eyes dimmed. Since he had made his choice, she could only respect his decision. Half a month later, in the Zhao family, a sword light crossed tens of thousands of miles. It was magnificent and unparalleled, shocking the world. That's his sword. Zhao Liusu felt it and immediately flew out. The other elders also followed. Looking at the sword light in the sky, they were shocked. The next moment, the sword light flew down and landed in the Zhao family. In the aftermath of the whistling sound, the sword light disappeared and a wooden box appeared. Zhao Liusu went forward and opened the wooden box. Her eyes trembled. In the wooden box, there was a golden and jade bow lying inside. Its aura was ancient and extremely extraordinary. Broken Death Bow. One of the elders of the Zhao family recognized the bow and exclaimed. The Broken Death Bow was originally an item of the Zhao family, but it had been lost for a long time. The Zhao family had once sent people to steal it from the knowing destiny Marquis, but they failed. Third elder, quickly look at that piece of metal in the box. Beside him, a female elder suddenly revealed an excited expression. The Zhao family's third elder followed her gaze and saw a blood-colored metal lying beside the bow. Its brilliance was restrained, but it was so beautiful that it made people unable to move their eyes away. Star Soul Iron Essence. The Zhao family's third elder exclaimed. Zhao Liusu silently looked at the Broken Death Bow and Star Soul Iron Essence in the wooden box. A moment later, she returned to her senses and threw the box to the third elder. Reforge this bow and build a Star Soul Tower. Yes. The elders of the Zhao family suppressed their excitement and respectfully bowed. 1,000 miles away, Xianyu looked at her husband and softly said, why don't you give it to them directly? Isn't it better to go and pay them a visit? Ning Qin shook his head. No matter what, Zhao Liusu's father's death is related to me. I can't have any more involvement with the Zhao family. Doing this is the best result for us. Xianyu lightly nodded and didn't say anything else. Let's go to the northern plains. Ning Qin held the hand of the person beside him and walked towards the northern plains. Chapter 780. In the northern plains, the wind was bitterly cold and snowflakes fluttered in the air. The polar region was covered in snow, and no one dared to go there. Among the 5 regions, the northern plains had the least number of people. The cold weather made the northern plains the least suitable place to live. However, because of the lack of people, the northern plains instead retained the most beautiful scenery of the human world. The silver world under the snowflakes was so beautiful that it was intoxicating. Unknowingly, 2 figures walked over side by side in the snowstorm. They were like ink in a painting, so beautiful. Xianyu was wearing a white fur coat. Walking in the snowstorm, she seemed to be one with heaven and earth. Ning Qin held the hand of the girl beside him. He was also wearing a plain white robe, simple and clean. 100 miles away, in the heavenly Sound Valley, a strange pavilion stood there. It was majestic and dignified, majestic and majestic. At this moment, multicolored light rose from the pavilion. An elegant and noble female voice rang out, spreading throughout the entire heavenly Sound Valley. Honored guests have arrived. Let's open the valley to welcome them. Yes. The next moment, snowflakes fluttered in the sky. In the snowstorm, a path of multicolored light spread out, leading to the heavenly sound valley. In front of them, two figures slowly walked over. After a few breaths, they arrived in front of the valley. Junior Ningchen requests an audience with the Heavenly Sound Pavilion Master. Please enter the valley. Many thanks. After receiving the response, Ningchen held Xianyu's hand and entered the valley. In an instant, snowflakes fluttered in the air, covering the entrance of the valley. What a beautiful place. Xianyu looked at the silver heavenly sound valley and praised. In front of them, there was a pavilion that seemed to be floating in the air. It was a work of art that surpassed the heavens and was extremely strange. The two of them walked to the front of the mountain. At this moment, multicolored light fell and a beautiful and noble figure descended from the sky, appearing in front of them. Greetings to the pavilion master. Ningchen bowed politely. Xianyu also bowed, not lacking in manners. You are a guest. There's no need to be so polite. The pavilion master replied. She looked at the young man in front of her and said calmly, Jiming Marquis, it has been 30 years since we last met. You are even more magnificent than before. Pavilion master overpraises me. Ningchen said with a serious expression. If it weren't for the pavilion master's help back then, this junior's lifespan would have been exhausted long ago, and it would be impossible for me to live until today. This junior has come here specifically to thank the pavilion master. You don't have to thank me. Jiming Marquis, since you're here, let's talk inside, the Heavenly Music Pavilion Master said calmly. Ningchen nodded. The Heavenly Music Pavilion Master waved her hand, and a multicolored light descended, carrying the two of them toward the pavilion on the mountain. In the valley, the door of the pavilion opened. Many disciples of the Heavenly Music Parlor bowed respectfully, welcoming the three of them. The leader of the group of women, a familiar beautiful figure, lowered her head slightly, unwilling to let the young man in front of her see her appearance. Miss, the grudges from back then are already in the past. There's no need to take it to heart. Ningchen stopped and said. Then, he continued to walk forward. Wu Qingman's expression shook, but after a short moment of tension, her body gradually relaxed. In front of them, the Heavenly Music Pavilion Master saw everything, but she did not say anything. She had already punished Wu Qingman for leaving the valley without permission to go to the Eastern Divine Prefecture. It could be seen that the Jiming Marquis did not care about this matter anymore. On the contrary, Qingman could not let it go. In these years, Qingman's cultivation had been growing slowly. With her talent, it should not be so. It was obvious that the Jiming Marquis was too much pressure for Qingman. She hoped that after today, Qingman could forget the grudges of the past and focus on cultivation. Pavilion Master, I have a question that I hope you can answer. Ningchen looked at the Heavenly Music Pavilion Master and asked. Please ask, the Heavenly Music Pavilion Master replied. I want to know how you extended my life for 100 years. How did you do it? Ningchen asked seriously. Sorry, this is a secret of the Heavenly Music Pavilion. Forgive me for not being able to tell you, the Heavenly Music Pavilion Master refused directly. Hearing this, Ningchen fell silent. After a while, he said, I have been rude. Pavilion Master, please don't blame me. I just feel that it is a little strange. Extending someone's life is really incredible. Even if you have stepped into the true realm, it is not easy to do so. The Heavenly Music Pavilion Master narrowed her eyes and said, You have already come into contact with true realm experts? Ningchen nodded and said, I have fought with them a few times. 10 years ago, the terrifying expert that appeared in the Eastern continent. What realm was he at? The Heavenly Music Pavilion Master asked again. Half a step to the true realm to the early stage, Ningchen said truthfully. The Heavenly Music Pavilion Master's heart was in turmoil. This young man really had the strength to contend with true realm experts. Pavilion Master, I know that extending someone's life is a secret of the Heavenly Music Pavilion. However, can you tell me what the price is to do this? Ning Chen asked seriously. The Heavenly Music Pavilion master frowned slightly and looked at the woman beside him. After a while, she understood. Life is determined by the heavens and cannot be changed, the Heavenly Music Pavilion master said, suppressing the turmoil in her heart. Ning Chen was stunned and asked in confusion, then why was Pavilion Master able to extend my life by 100 years? Your situation is different, the Heavenly Music Pavilion Master said calmly. You are an inborn expert and your lifespan is not something an ordinary person can achieve. The reason why your lifespan is depleted is that you exchanged 500 years of your life source for 100 years of your foundation. However, your body still retains the strength of an inborn expert. As long as the price is sufficient, I can replenish part of your lifespan. However, 100 years is the limit. Ning Chen's eyes narrowed. After a long time, he asked, is it really impossible to change a mortal's lifespan? No. The Heavenly Music Pavilion master shook her head and said, at least, as far as I know, no one can do this. Changing a person's lifespan is equivalent to going against the will of the heavens. I don't need to explain how difficult it is to go against the will of the heavens. I'm sure you know better than anyone else. Ning Chen was silent. Going against the will of the heavens was like a mortal ascending to the heavens. It was unattainable. No. Suddenly, Ning Chen came back to his senses and seemed to have thought of something. He looked at the Heavenly Music Pavilion Master in front of him and asked seriously, Pavilion Master, what did you mean by the price being sufficient? You don't need to know about this, the Heavenly Music Pavilion Master said calmly. Ning Chen stared at the former. All along, he had felt that something was wrong. So this was the reason. Even if his situation was special, it would not be easy for the Heavenly Music Pavilion Master to prolong his life. He had been in Changling for a long time, but the female supreme rarely mentioned this Heavenly Music Pavilion master. It could be seen that even if the two had a relationship, it was far from this level. You don't need to guess anymore. I have promised others that I will not speak of this matter. So, you will not get an answer from me, the Heavenly Music Pavilion master said coolly. At the same time, in the Forbidden Heaven space, a huge sound mill was floating. In front of the sound mill, a woman in a white dress walked forward with difficulty. For more than 30 years, countless days and nights, she did not stop for even a moment. Iron chains hung from the void on the woman's shoulders and passed through her shoulder blades. Dried blood stains remained on her white clothes. It was very eye-catching. Suddenly, an unbearable palpitation came. Mu Qingxue gave a muffled grunt and staggered a few steps. Drops of blood quietly dripped from the corner of his mouth. A strange light rose and dispelled the emotions in the woman's heart. The great oblivion, once chosen, is hard to escape. The sound mill stopped and the sound of the Tao changed. In the Heavenly Music Pavilion, the Heavenly Music Pavilion master felt it and immediately stood up. Her eyes looked forward with a serious expression. Knowledge Marquis, please wait here for a moment. I have some matters to attend to. I will be back soon. As she spoke, the Heavenly Music Pavilion master's figure flashed and disappeared. What is it? Xinu asked in confusion. I am not too sure. Ning Chen shook his head. A strange look flashed through his eyes. Just now, the power of laws in the Heavenly Music Pavilion did change. The departure of the Heavenly Music Pavilion master should be related to this. Nothing happened in the valley. There were no invaders outside the valley. Why did the power of laws in the Heavenly Music Pavilion change? In the Forbidden Heaven space, the Heavenly Music Pavilion master appeared. Looking at the woman in front of the sound mill who was suffering from the backlash of her cultivation, she took a step and rushed in front of her. Vital essence poured in and suppressed the power of the great oblivion. The Heavenly Music Pavilion master's expression gradually turned serious. It had been almost 40 years. She still could not forget. He is here. Temporarily suppressing the injury, Mu Qingxue slowly opened his eyes and said tiredly. Mu Qingxue, I don't need to explain the reason. You cultivate the great oblivion. You must not be moved by true feelings. You were able to successfully forget back then. Why can't you do it now? Mu Qingxue raised his hand and wiped the blood at the corner of his mouth. He did not answer. He pushed the sound mill again and continued to fulfill his promise. The Heavenly Music Pavilion Master sighed and did not ask again. Her figure flashed and she left the forbidden heaven space. The Heavenly Music Pavilion Master appeared in the Heavenly Music Pavilion. Looking at the plain-clothed young man in front of her, a trace of undetectable complexity flashed through her eyes. The two of them were not destined to be together, but they had always been involved. The promise of 100 years was over. At that time, the knowledge Marquis life would also come to an end. Hopefully, everything would come to an end. Knowledge Marquis, I have told you everything I can. As for your question just now, I promised someone to keep it a secret. I will not say anything, the Heavenly Music Pavilion Master said seriously. Hearing this, Ning Chen's eyes narrowed. After a moment, he politely bowed and said, in that case, I will not disturb you any longer. Thank you for your hospitality. I will take my leave first. Please. The Heavenly Music Pavilion Master did not ask him to stay. Ning Chen nodded and left with Xianyu. Seeing the two of them leave, Wu Qingman, who had been silent all this time, stepped forward and said, Master, why didn't you tell him the truth? So what if he knows the truth? Mu Qingxue's cultivation technique is destined to not be able to make him fall in love. As for the knowledge Marquis, he does not have much time left, the Heavenly Music Pavilion Master said indifferently. Not much time left? Wu Qingman's face was filled with shock and disbelief. The Heavenly Music Pavilion Master nodded and said, there are no longer any fluctuations of true qi in the knowledge Marquis body. It is obvious that his cultivation has dissipated. Back then, I extended his life for 100 years. If he cannot become an immortal, these 100 years will be his last. However, in comparison, the woman beside him does not have much time left. Outside the Heavenly Music Valley, the two of them walked out together. Xianyu looked at her husband and smiled. Where are we going? Do you want to go to sky beyond heaven to take a look? Ning Chen asked softly. Xianyu thought for a moment and nodded. Yes. Then let's go now. Ning Chen's face was filled with gentleness. Just as he was about to leave, his eyes fiercely trembled. Between the woman's black hair, there were strands of snow white, so dazzling. Chapter 781. In the outer sky, the vast starry sky was dotted with stars. It was so vast that it made people gasp in amazement. Two figures flew through the starry sky like shooting stars, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Is this the Ziwei star zone? Xianyu stared at the boundless starry sky as a bright light flashed in her eyes. She smiled. Yes. Seeing her happy smile, Ning Chen's mood improved. He said, the inner world is at the edge of the Ziwei star zone. The starry sky is too vast. It's too slow to travel like this. Let's go visit some old friends and borrow some things. Tianfu. Xianyu immediately guessed and smiled. Ning Chen chuckled and said, you're getting smarter and smarter. Tianfu planet's celestial phenomenon is the most extraordinary. We can take this opportunity to visit some friends on the Tianfu planet. Okay, I'll listen to you. Xianyu nodded in agreement. After reaching an agreement, Ning Chen sped up. He turned into a sword and flew toward the Tianfu planet with the girl beside him. The Tianfu planet, the Holy Land. Chao Tianxi stood at the peak of the Holy Land and looked at the Tianfu planet that was gradually recovering. Master. Shimujin walked forward and bowed respectfully. Chao Tianxi came back to her senses and looked at the disciple behind her. She said, Mujin, how long have you been in the early stage of the virtual realm? 10 years. Shi Mujin answered honestly. Chao Tianqi nodded and said, after today, you can leave the mountain. Seal 70% of your cultivation and don't release it for 10 years. Yes. Shi Mujin said respectfully. Star Venerable. At this moment, a girl in green appeared out of nowhere. She knelt down and bowed. My Star's Soul Life C shows that a top expert is quickly approaching the Tianfu planet. Chao Tianqi's eyes narrowed. She asked, can you see his appearance? He's too fast. I can't see him at all, the girl in green replied. Be alert and prepare for battle, Chao Tianqi said slowly. Yes. The girl in green accepted the order. She was about to get up when she suddenly looked at the sky in shock. She saw a dazzling light in the sky. A white sword light descended from the sky. It was extremely fast. By the time she came back to her senses, the sword light had already reached the Holy Land. Star Venerable, how have you been? The sword light dissipated and the girl in green appeared. She looked at the person in front of her. Jiming Marquis. Chao Tianqi regained her senses and exclaimed in surprise. Greetings, Senior Star Venerable. Beside Ning Chen, Xinu respectfully bowed as she spoke. Chao Tianqi was startled. Only then did she notice the woman beside Jiming Marquis. This is my wife, Xia Xinyu, Ning Chen introduced. The 9th Princess of Great Xia. Chao Tianqi was even more surprised. She had heard of this name before. She had sent people to investigate all the people related to the Marquis of Jiming, and this 9th princess was one of them. However, she did not expect that the two of them would end up together in the end. No. Suddenly, Chao Tianqi narrowed his eyes and looked at the two of them. After a moment, his heart sank. How could this be? Star Venerable, I'm here to see Tian Xiang. Do you know where he is? Ning Chen asked straightforwardly. Celestial phenomenon. Zhao Tianqi looked surprised and asked, why are you looking for the Minister of Heaven? Xinyu and I want to take a walk in outer heavens. Star Venerable, you know that the universe is vast and every life planet is very far from each other. It takes a lot of time. That's why I want to find Tian Xiang and ask him to teach me how to set up a space formation, Ning Chen said honestly. Chao Tianqi shook his head and said, that won't work. Why not? Ning Chen did not understand. Spatial formations, especially long-distance spatial formations that cross between life stars, are extremely complicated to set up, and the amount of origin immortal jade required to operate them is even more terrifying. Back then, the heavenly sanctum had to use the power of one star to maintain these formations, Zhao Tianqi said truthfully. Ning Chen frowned. He knew that it was not easy to set up and operate these formations, but he did not expect them to be so terrifying. There should be such formations between life planets, right? What if I borrow them? Ning Chen asked again. Chao Tianqi thought for a moment and shook his head. Space formations that cross life planets are all in the top inheritances. If you want to borrow them, you'll have to pay a lot of celestial jades. Once you take out so many celestial jades, you'll attract a lot of trouble. Actually, it's not like there's no way. At this moment, sword light soared into the sky from the depths of the sacred land. The sword pressure grew stronger and stronger, causing the entire heavenly sanctum to shake. Sword Sovereign. Chao Tianqi narrowed his eyes. Was he finally coming out of seclusion? Ning Chen looked over as well, and a serious look flashed in his eyes. What a powerful sword will. In the next moment, a dazzling sword light pierced through heaven and earth. A black-robed figure walked out of the sword light. Senior Sword Sovereign. When he saw the person who came, Ning Chen bowed politely. You're no weaker than me. I can't accept you calling me senior, said Mu Chang'e. Age is seniority. Strength has nothing to do with this, said Ning Chen. So many years have passed, but you're still as stubborn as before, said Mu Chunga calmly. Senior Honorable Sword Master, you've come out of seclusion in a different manner from before, Ning Chen replied. The sword of a defeated sword naturally has to learn from shame. Mu Chunga looked at the person in front of him and said, since it's such a coincidence, why don't we exchange a few moves? Ning Chen was startled, and hesitation appeared in his eyes. To the side, Xianyu softly said, it's fine, there's no need to worry about me. It's just a spar. I also want to see how strong my husband is. When Ning Chen heard this, he nodded lightly. He could no longer suppress the fighting spirit in his eyes. His desire to fight an opponent on the sword completely erupted. Miss Xianyu, let's move back a bit. Chao Tianxi reminded her and quickly pulled her out of the battle. Shi Mujin also retreated and watched the battle anxiously. Over 10 years ago, that legendary Grand Xia cultivator had come to challenge Sword Sovereign, and Sword Sovereign had been defeated. Because of that, Sword Sovereign had gone into seclusion for over 10 years to comprehend a higher level of sword intent. Master, between Sword Sovereign and Sword Marquis, who is stronger? Asked Shi Mujin. Chao Tianxi shook her head. If the two of them were at their peak, their strength would be about the same. But now that Sword Sovereign has lost all his cultivation, he might be at a disadvantage. In the ultimate martial battle, although cultivation wasn't an absolute factor, it couldn't be ignored. Now that Sword Sovereign had lost all his cultivation, it wouldn't be easy for him to fight Sword Sovereign head-on. The two of you, don't overdo it, said Chao Tianxi. Understood. Ning Chen and Mu Chunga looked at each other and nodded. Please. With a single word, the two divine weapons, Star Spirit and Heavenly Sword, were unsheathed and faced each other for the first time. For their own swords, the two of them used their peak strength. Sword light split open the wind and clouds, and the swords collided in the air. Ninth Sword, Divine Domain. Mu Chunga's sword intent rose rapidly, accumulating as ninth sword appeared. A moment later, the sword light soared into the sky, and heaven and earth turned into swords, rapidly expanding. A divine domain appeared on the sword. Endless sword light crisscrossed, flickering indeterminately. The shocking sword made the world tremble. Seeing this, Ning Chen didn't dare to be careless. Star's soul in his hand changed, and an abnormally strong sword intent surged out, resonating with 10,000 swords. Sword technique, ultimate heaven. Two swords that stood at the peak couldn't coexist. The moment the sword light collided, the two's sword intent continued to devour each other, spreading thousands of miles away. Outside the battle, Chao Tianxi waved her hand to calm the storm. Above the sacred ground, arrays were activated to resist the aftermath of the two's battle. 10th Sword, Celestial Slaying. After 9th Sword, Mu Chunga's vital essence rose rapidly, and a terrifying sword pressure spread out, twisting space and time within 1,000 miles. A sword that transcended the limits appeared. Celestial Slaying, chaos appeared in heaven and earth, and an ancient sword spirit gathered in the sky, and an ancient stone sword appeared, slashing down from the sky. Seeing the sword light descending from the sky, Ning Chen's eyes turned serious. Celestial Slaying. Sword technique, nothingness. The Celestial Slaying sword intent was invincible, and Ning Chen's sword turned nothingness. The stars in the sky shook, and starlight fell, adding to the sword's power. The two swords clashed, and nothingness engulfed the void. Celestial Slaying turned invisible. Seeing this, Mu Chunga's eyes narrowed, and he didn't hold back anymore. Sword Chi soared into the sky, and he attacked with 11th Sword. 11th Sword. With a shout of 11th Sword, the entire heavenly sanctum shook, and the swords that soared into the sky were endless, without beginning and without end, breaking through the sky. The extremity of sword, a perfect sword technique, met Ning Chen's attack head-on. He took a step forward, and his body split into two. Sword technique, 3 lights together. The sword intent manifested, and 3 identical figures appeared at the same time. Sword dance, spring and autumn, shook the world. Only sword technique, so dazzling. The 2 extremities collided, and terrifying shockwaves spread out, shaking the sacred ground. Even with layers of protective arrays, they were unable to resist the shockwaves. Amidst the shockwaves, the 2 of them stood side by side. The ground in front of them crumbled, and the cracks were so deep that one couldn't see the bottom. Mu Chunga had already unleashed 3 moves, and he already knew his opponent's strength. There was no need to probe further. Mu Chunga shouted, and the sword chi around him dissipated, returning to its original state. Even before he attacked, an unprecedented sword pressure swept out. Sword. 12th sword. Mu Chunga attacked, and his sword intent broke through the limit. A dazzling sword light coiled around him, so beautiful, so shocking. Ning Chen's expression froze, and his aura sank. The sword intent around him also rose rapidly, and his astral souls revolved, unleashing his ultimate moves. At this moment, outside the battlefield, Xinu, who had been quietly spectating, suddenly staggered. She coughed out a mouthful of blood, and silently fell to the ground. In the battlefield, Ning Chen sensed something, and his countenance drastically changed. The instant he unleashed his ultimate move, his strength weakened by several degrees. The 2 moves collided, and the shockwaves from the collision caused his robes to be dyed red. Xinu. Ignoring his injuries, Ning Chen's silhouette flashed, instantly appearing outside the battlefield. He supported the unconscious Xinu, and anxiousness could be seen on his face. How could he be so fast? In the battlefield not far away, Mu Chunga walked out, and a trace of regret flashed in his eyes as he stared at his silhouette whose robes were dyed red. Sadly, he was distracted for the final move. There was no meaning in winning this battle. Chapter 782. In the heavenly sanctum's sacred land, Shimujin went down the mountain to seal 7 successful bodies to temper himself. The battle between the peak swords was still vivid in his mind. He had cultivated for dozens of years, and he had left everyone in the dust. No one could catch up to him. The heavenly Daos were unfair. Everyone's talent and karmic luck were different. Heavenly geniuses had leaped through the dragon gate, reached the corporeal realm, and comprehended the true Tao. Ordinary people would never be able to reach that level. However, there were 50 grand Daos, and 49 heavenly Daos. The heavenly Daos could not be perfect. What was missing gave thousands of people like knowing destiny a slim chance. Cultivation was made up for by hard work. Talent was not the deciding factor. Even the heavens couldn't interfere. So the heavens also couldn't stop knowing destiny from walking their own Tao. If the heavens didn't interfere, who could stop knowing destiny? Plum blossoms drifted in the air above the heavenly sanctum. Within a room, a beautiful figure was lying on the bed. Her hair was partially white, and it was extremely dazzling. Ning Chen looked at the unconscious woman beside the bed. A trace of sadness flashed through his eyes. Knowing destiny, Marquis, I never had the chance to ask you what happened. Why did you lose your cultivation base? Are you really married to this woman? Asked Chao Tianxi. Yes. Ning Chen nodded. He took a step forward and gently stroked her face. It's a long story. The past was like smoke. Ning Chen's gaze never left the unconscious woman. He gave a simple recount of what had happened. Hearing this, Chao Tianxi sighed. I really didn't expect you to be able to find a way to bring the dead back to life. You did it in the end. This is what I owe her, said Ning Chen. What about Xia Xinyu? Her talent is no worse than those heavenly geniuses. Since you married her, why didn't you persuade her to walk the path of cultivation? Asked Chao Tianxi. Xinyu's personality is very similar to the Empress's. Once she makes a decision, no one can change it. Even I can't, said Ning Chen. You two really are the same. Sometimes, you two really are the same, said Tianxi helplessly. There are still 10 years left. I just want her to finish this journey happily without any regrets, Ningchen said. The door opened and Mu Chang'e walked in. He looked at the plainclothed young man by the bed and calmly said, using a spatial array formation is indeed not a good idea. If you were alone then it would be fine, but now you have this young lady by your side. If you encounter a top inheritance with ill intentions then it will be difficult for you to protect her. Ning Chen shifted his gaze and looked at the honorable swordsman who was walking in. He said, Honorable swordsman, you said that there was another way. I wonder what it is. Tianzhou. Mu Chang'e said seriously, in the past, when I was traveling the world, I once saw a spirit artifact that could travel through space. Although its speed was not as fast as a spatial array, it was more agile and suitable for you and this lady. When Ningchen heard this, a strange look appeared in his eyes as he asked, where can I get such a spirit artifact? The first star of the Ziwei star, the Ziwei Imperial Star, said Mu Chang'e. Ningchen nodded slightly and replied, Thank you, Senior Sword Venerable, for your guidance. Jiming Marquis. Chao Tianxi looked at the young man in front of him and earnestly said, Has Lady Xianyu ever taken a spirit medicine that can increase her lifespan? If she hasn't, then perhaps she can use a grand medicine to increase her lifespan. Ning Chen sighed and shook his head. It's useless. Xianyu's body and appearance have always been maintained by medicine. Furthermore, even if we found a way to increase her lifespan, Xianyu wouldn't use it. Chao Tianxi fell silent and sighed heavily inside. Everyone chased after longevity, but this Lady Xianyu was willing to give up on longevity and only wanted to live an ordinary life. When the sun was about to set, Xianyu woke up. Looking at the concerned gaze in front of her, she gently smiled and said, I'm fine. Don't worry. Ning Chen nodded. Rest a bit more. Xianyu sat up, wanting to get up. Ning Chen carefully helped her up and let her lean into his embrace. I'm really fine. Have you found a way? Asked Xianyu gently. I've found one. We need to make a trip to the Ziwei Imperial Star. Ning Chen nodded. Then let's move quickly. The Ziwei Imperial Star shouldn't be near here, said Xianyu softly. Ning Chen hesitated for a moment. Soon after, he nodded and agreed. Seeing that the two of them had made up their minds, Chao Tianxi didn't stay any longer. This Lady Xianyu didn't have much time left. Sorry for disturbing you. Xianyu stood up and bowed to the noble woman in front of her. Chao Tianxi went up to support her. There's no need to be so courteous. The Jiming Marquis is the benefactor of my heavenly sanctum. No matter when you come, the heavenly sanctum will always welcome you. Ning Chen smiled faintly and supported the person beside him as they walked out together. Seeing the two of them leave, Chao Tianxi couldn't bear to see them leave. Why was it that such a kind person didn't receive the protection of the heavens? Every step of his life was filled with hardships. When swordsmen discuss the sword, victory or defeat is more important than life. Only this child doesn't care about victory or defeat at all, sighed Mu Chang'e. He wasn't arrogant when he won, and he wasn't discouraged when he lost. From the start of the battle until now, he hadn't seen the Jiming Marquis' mood change at all. It's not that he doesn't care. Chao Tianxi shook her head. From the way he accepted the battle with you, he also hopes to have an opponent on the same level as him to test his sword. In this world, there are no swordsmen who don't care about victory or defeat. But to him, the woman beside him is even more important than his sword. Above the sacred ground, the white-robed man's sword light pierced through the clouds, bringing his wife along as he flew away. In the universe, in the vast starry sky, the sword light streaked across, vanishing in an instant. 7 months later, in the center of the Ziwei starfield, on the Ziwei Imperial Star, 2 people arrived. In front of the 100 Rivers house, the two of them walked in together. The number 1 house under the heavens, its name spread far and wide. Of the 9 floors, the first 7 were the trading grounds. The 8th floor was where the rare treasures of the world were sold. The 9th floor was a forbidden area of the 100 Rivers house. Ning Chen brought Xianyu to the 8th floor. Only the 100 Rivers house could create a heavenly boat. And every time there was an auction, the heavenly boat would be one of the most precious treasures. The heavenly boat had the ability to pass through space, something rarely seen in the world. There were very few divine materials in the world that could withstand the tearing of space. The 100 Rivers house also couldn't accumulate too many. On the 10th day, the auction began. In the various private rooms, powerful auras appeared one after another, waiting for the treasures they wanted to bid on. Within one of the private rooms, Ning Chen quietly looked at the treasures being auctioned off one by one. From the start to the end, he didn't call out a single bid. "Husband, I'm a little tired." Xianyu had a look of fatigue on her face. "Why don't you rest?" Ning Chen gently pulled the woman beside him into his embrace and said softly. "Okay." Xianyu nodded. She leaned on his shoulder and quietly fell asleep. Her long white hair could no longer be concealed. It symbolized that the most resplendent pearl of Grand Xia was about to reach the end of her life. 4 hours later, the treasures being auctioned off became more and more extraordinary. Every single one of them was sold for a price of over 5,000 immortal jades, causing people to be speechless. The heavenly boat has the ability to pass through space. There's no need for me to introduce its value. Everyone should be very clear about it. The starting price is 9,000 immortal jades. Everyone, please start bidding. At the side of the stage, a beautiful woman looked at the private rooms in front of her. In each of the private rooms, the powerful qi changed and manifested. They all had thoughts about the heavenly boat. 30,000 immortal jades. Just as they were about to bid, a calm voice rang out. Instantly, the entire 8th floor fell silent. "Oh." In a private room not far away, a woman dressed as a man frowned slightly. She looked in the direction of the voice. "Who was it?" "Prince Qi, do you want to raise the price?" asked an enchanting woman from the side. "No need." King Qi shook her head. 30,000 immortal jades had already exceeded her range of acceptance. Although this treasure was one of her goals, she hadn't expected such a person to appear. There were still other things she wanted. There was no need to compete with this person on a single heavenly boat. On the 8th floor, after the first bid, the private rooms all chose to remain silent. No one bid again. At the side of the stage, a strange light flashed through the woman's eyes. The heavenly boat's value was extraordinary. In the past, it had indeed been auctioned off for a sky-high price. However, this was the first time she had seen someone directly bid 30,000 immortal jades. She wondered which power was so bold. 30,000 immortal jades going once. 30,000 immortal jades going twice. 30,000 immortal jades going thrice. Sold. With that, the ownership of the heavenly boat was decided. This unexpected situation caused everyone to pay more attention to the private room that had bid this time. However, in the following auction, the private room that had bid earlier didn't make any more bids. In a private room not far away, King Qi's eyes narrowed. "Concubine Yun, that person is about to leave. Secretly follow him. Be careful. Don't be discovered." "Yes." Concubine Yun accepted the order and left the private room. Who could it be? King Qi tapped her finger on the stone table in front of her as she pondered. Before coming to this planet, she had done a detailed investigation of all the powers on Crepe Myrtle planet. The number of great powers that were so bold could be counted on one hand. However, these great powers already had the heavenly boat. Why would they still want to fight over it? Strange. In the 100 Rivers house, Ning Chen paid the immortal jades and put away the heavenly boat. Soon after, he left with Xianyu. Send someone to follow him and find out his identity. On the 9th floor of the 100 Rivers house, an old figure opened his eyes. Yes. Almost at the same time, the private rooms on the 8th floor also took action. They secretly sent people to follow him. Outside the 100 Rivers house, Ning Chen sensed many unfamiliar auras following behind him. He ignored them and walked towards an inn not far away. Xinu, let's rest for a day first. Tomorrow, we will leave for another place. Ning Chen said softly. The Crepe Myrtle Imperial Star was known as the #1 star in the Crepe Myrtle planet. It was definitely extraordinary. Since he and Xinu had come here, they should at least walk around. Xinu nodded, replying softly. Reporting to Paragon, that person is staying at the Cloud Gathering Inn. Not long after, the spies reported back one after another, reporting the situation. Oh. Truly skilled and daring. Chapter 783. As night fell, the lanterns in Yunlai Inn were lit. The candles on the 2nd floor flickered brightly. In front of a bronze mirror, Xinu untied her hair. Looking at her snow-white reflection, she sighed inside. In the end, she couldn't keep her. Ning Chen walked up and gently hugged her from behind. It's fine. It's just that your hair is a bit whiter. Our 9th princess is still as beautiful as ever. Xinu turned back as a smile appeared on her beautiful face. You only know how to console me. Princess, it's already late. How about your husband help you rest? Teased Ning Chen. That's fine. Xinu smiled. Not long after, the candles in the room were extinguished. Everything was the same as before. In the room across from them, a handsome figure in luxurious clothes stood there, a strange light flashing in his eyes. If this person didn't have a heavenly treasure to rely on, then he was an idiot. Behind him, an enchanting woman looked at him and said, Prince Qi, do you need me to test him? Not for now. Prince Qi shook his head. There will be people who can't sit still before us. 30,000 immortal jades is not a small amount even in the most peak sections. This person's identity is definitely extraordinary. Concubine Yun frowned. I didn't sense any true qi fluctuations from his body. Could he just be a playboy from some great sect or dynasty? There are many treasures in the world, and it's not like there aren't any things that can conceal one's aura. We can't jump to conclusions. He only booked a room for one day and will leave tomorrow. Whether he's a dragon or a worm, we'll know soon enough. You can go now. Don't alert him, said Prince Qi calmly. Yes. Concubine Yun respectfully accepted her orders and left. At the same time, numerous figures were hidden in the shadows outside the inn, staring at the mission target. No one dared to act rashly. The cold moon moved to the west. A calm night with dark undercurrents gradually passed. There was no movement in the room on the 2nd floor. It was as if they didn't notice what was happening outside. The next day, under the first rays of the morning sun, the door to the room opened. Xinu, who was dressed in a simple and elegant dress, walked out. Her countenance was so beautiful that it could cause the downfall of nations to fall into a daze. Across the room, the door opened. Prince Qi looked at the woman who walked out of the room. Such a stunning woman was rarely seen in the world. Unfortunately, he didn't have much lifespan left. After the woman walked out, the young man in plain clothes also walked out. He closed the door and went downstairs together. Follow me. In the dark, a figure received the order and followed. Outside the city, the two of them headed west, away from the bustling human world. The Imperial Star, the vast divine land, and the incomparably magnificent mountains and rivers stretched between heaven and earth, making people reluctant to leave. Amidst the beautiful mountains and rivers, the smile on Xinu's face grew wider and wider. She had forgotten all her troubles and was enjoying the scenery with the people around her. Half a month later, more and more figures followed behind him. Finally, some of them could no longer sit still and revealed their killing intent. In front of a large river that flowed to the east, Ning Chen looked at the woman by the river. The gentleness in his eyes couldn't be dispelled. Ning Chen didn't look back. He waved his right hand, and a fallen leaf shot out, piercing through the air. 1,000 feet away, a waterfall of blood gushed out. Before the black-clothed figure could make a move, his eyes were filled with disbelief as he stared at the fallen leaf in his chest. He wanted to say something, but no sound came out. The black-clothed figure fell down. The blood from his chest dyed the ground red. Even in death, he was unable to close his eyes. Husband. Xianu turned her head and looked at the person in front of her. Her face reddened and she softly said, "I want to take a bath in this river." When Ning Chen heard this, he gently smiled and said, "Go ahead, I'll watch for you." Xianu's face turned even redder. "Can you turn around?" Ning Chen smiled. "We are husband and wife. Are you afraid I'll watch?" Although he said that, Ning Chen still turned around and waved his right hand. Behind him, countless fallen leaves flew into the air, forming a barrier in front of the river. 1,000 feet away from the river, numerous figures were shocked and they saw this scene. "Friends, you've followed me for so long. It's time to return and report," said Ning Chen calmly. In the dark, numerous figures were shocked. When they saw the gaze of the plain-clothed young man in front of them, their hearts sank. So they had been discovered long ago. Retreat. They no longer hesitated and immediately retreated. "Miss, what about you?" Ning Chen looked at the two people on the other side. "You've truly hidden your strength." Two figures walked out. The one in front was wearing luxurious robes and holding a folding fan. His appearance was exceptionally delicate, and he looked a bit too handsome. Behind him, a woman with an enchanting appearance and an exquisite figure followed. Her seductive aura was the epitome of a femme fatale. Ning Chen only glanced at the woman behind him before turning his gaze to the person in front of him. The woman behind him had an extraordinary cultivation base. She had already reached the immortal void-treading realm. However, the true expert was this young master who was dressed as a man. Mid-true realm. "I wouldn't dare say I've hidden my strength." "Why have the two of you followed me all the way here?" asked Ning Chen. "I am Lin Yuzhen, and this is my maid, concubine Yun." "We followed you because we wanted to become friends with you," said Lin Yuzhen calmly. "Let's not beat around the bush. Just tell us your intentions," said Ning Chen. The heavenly boat. Lin Yuzhen closed her fan. "Are you willing to part with it?" "I'm willing to exchange it for 40,000 immortal jades." Ning Chen narrowed his eyes. "Since you can take out so many immortal jades, why didn't you make a bid back then?" "I won't hide it from you. At the time, I did have other things I wanted to fight over, so I couldn't waste too much immortal jades on this item. However, something unexpected happened, and the 100 Rivers building didn't take out what I wanted. The immortal jades I prepared were also left over," said Lin Yuzhen. Ning Chen shook his head. "I'm sorry, but this item is very important to me. I can't give it away." "Impudent." Concubine Yun's expression turned cold. "Prince Qi is willing to exchange with you at a high price because he doesn't want to bully the weak. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." Ning Chen smiled faintly and said, "Miss, why are you so angry? The heavenly ark is mine. I don't want to give it to others. Isn't that right and proper? Why are you so angry?" "A matter of course." Concubine Yun snorted. "There is no such thing as a matter of course in this world. Only absolute strength is a matter of course." Concubine Yun. Lin Yuzhen's eyes turned cold. "Don't be rude." Concubine Yun trembled and lowered her head, not daring to say another word. Lin Yuzhen smiled once more and looked at the youth in front of her. "Young master, the heavenly boat is truly of great use to me. What will it take for you to part with it?" At the same time, the shadow sent out by the 100 Rivers House's 9th floor had returned and reported what he had seen. He didn't use his cultivation base and only used a leaf to kill a peak perfection spy. In the depths of the 9th level, an aged figure opened his eyes and spoke. Indeed. When that person attacked, this subordinate didn't sense any true chi fluctuations, said the shadow respectfully. Extreme Tao, muttered the old figure. Such a person hasn't appeared in a long time. Ancestor, do we still need to continue investigating? Asked a middle-aged man. No need. The old figure shook his head. Do you know the identity of the cross-dressing woman the shadow spoke of? I don't know. Prince Qi, Lin Yuzhen, said the 100 Rivers House's ancestor. The middle-aged man's expression shook. The spirit void Starfield's Prince Qi who can contend with the Ji family? Yes. The 100 Rivers House's ancestor nodded. This Prince Qi was born in a family of generals and has been known as a man since he was young. Because of his outstanding military exploits, he was bestowed the title of prince by the mortal realm's emperor. Later on, he coincidentally embarked on the path of cultivation. Although he hasn't cultivated for long, his progress is astonishing. In just a short 100 years, he has already reached the mid-stage of the true realm. Even the grand elders of the Ji family don't want to casually provoke him. The middle-aged man came back to his senses, suppressed his shock, and nodded. The world-shaking Prince Qi had actually personally come to the Myrtle Imperial Star. Just why? Tens of thousands of leaves fluttered in the wind. Lin Yuzhen looked at the man in front of her and once more asked about the conditions. I'm sorry, but the heavenly boat is also very important to me. No matter what the conditions are, I can't part with it, refused Ningchen once more. Lin Yuzhen's expression froze and she said, Young master, you should know that a man's wealth is his own ruin. Although concubine Yun's words were a bit extreme, there is some truth to them. 3 moves. If you can prove that you can keep the treasure, this king will immediately leave and promise not to disturb you again in the future. Ning Chen narrowed his eyes. Please. As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere between the two suddenly became heavy. Lin Yuzhen was the first to move. Her seemingly delicate body had the power to fight against the heavens. In an instant, she arrived in front of the former and stretched out her delicate hand. Ning Chen leaned to the side, dodging her hand. His right hand formed a sword, and sword qi soared out of him. Lin Yuzhen narrowed her eyes and changed the direction of her palm, once more grabbing his arm. Ning Chen retreated half a step. Streaks of sword light shot out from his body, each one faster than the last. There was no way to dodge them. Lin Yuzhen stepped forward and circulated her true essence. She scattered the sword qi in front of her with a single palm. The shockwaves hadn't dissipated yet, and her palm didn't stop. The furious currents of the sea overflowed. The terrifying scene in front of her split the sky. Sword art, nothingness. Ning Chen used his fingers to block her attack. With a heaven-shaking boom, the shockwaves from their attacks dissipated. Dust was blown away, and everything within 30 meters of them fell. Lin Yuzhen withdrew her hand. Her eyes flashed. What a beautiful sword. Behind them, the leaves that filled the sky began to fall. An exceptionally beautiful figure walked over. Looking at the two of them, she revealed a gentle smile. Husband, who is this friend? Xianu walked up and softly asked. Lin Yuzhen, a friend I just met, replied Ning Chen. Xianu nodded. She looked at the woman who was clearly dressed as a man. She smiled. Miss Lin, it's not good to force people to do things they don't want to do, right? Chapter 784. Thousand Separation Mountain. In front of the great river flowing to the east, Lin Yuzhen looked at the exceptionally beautiful woman before her and narrowed her eyes. All along, she had thought that this woman was merely an ordinary woman. Other than her outstanding appearance, there was nothing worth paying attention to. She had not paid much attention to this woman before. It seemed that she had been blind. This state of mind and courage was definitely not something an ordinary woman could possess. Please forgive me, I was rude. Lin Yuzhen clasped her fists and apologized. Seeing the person before her apologizing, Xin did not say anything else. She walked behind her husband and remained silent. Seeing this, Lin Yuzhen's eyes flashed with surprise again. Forget it. Ning Chen smiled and said, it's better to have one more friend than one more enemy. This matter ends here, there is no need to mention it again. Lin Yuzhen nodded and said, may I know how to address young master? Ning Chen. I admire Brother Ning's magnanimity. Today's matter is my fault. If Brother Ning comes to the spirit void realm in the future, I will definitely wait for you. Lin Yuzhen clasped her fists again and turned to leave. Ning Chen looked at the departing back and a serious expression appeared on his face. Spirit void Starfield's people. 10 steps away, Lin Yuzhen stopped. She looked at the figure before the river and said, young Master Ning, do you believe in Buddha? I don't. Ning Chen was slightly startled. Then, he lightly shook his head. I also don't believe in it. However, amongst all the gods, only Buddha believes in the afterlife. It is rumored that there is a Buddha in the all-heaven Starfield. Brother Ning, you can decide for yourself. After saying that, Lin Yuzhen did not say anything else and walked out of the Thousand Separation Mountain. Hearing the former's words, Ning Chen became silent and did not say anything. Husband, let's go too. Beside him, Xin softly said. Ning Chen nodded and led the person beside him forward. After that day, no one on the Myrtle Imperial Star saw the two of them again. It was as if they had disappeared into thin air. 7 years passed in the realm beyond heaven. The young man in white robes and the white-haired woman traveled through the various planetary systems. They didn't stay in any of the places for too long. The most beautiful time of their lives was so short. In the glorious gold starfield, on a famous mountain peak, the two of them were sitting side by side as they looked at the rising sun in the east. Husband, let's go home. Xin softly said. Okay. Ning Chen nodded slightly and replied. As the sun rose, the two of them left the mountain peak and began their journey back. 1 year later, in the eastern divine land of the inner realm, the two people who had been away for nearly 10 years returned. The plain-clothed knowing destiny state cultivator looked the same as he did 10 years ago. However, beside Ji Ming, the woman's hair had turned completely white, and not a single trace of black could be seen. In the depths of Ning Chen's eyes, the sorrow grew thicker and thicker, so deep that it could not be dissolved. Within the borders of Grand Xia, winter had arrived. Snowflakes drifted down from the cold sky, sprinkling down onto the mortal world. The two of them walked together towards the east, one step at a time. 30 years of waiting, 20 years of being together. The cycle of time gradually came to an end. The Jiming Marquis residence did not alert anyone. When the two of them walked over, the guards in front of the residence were shocked and hurriedly bowed. Get up, don't make a fuss. Ning Chen said softly and walked towards the Marquis' estate. The maids looked at each other, their eyes filled with shock. Why was the princess' hair all white? In the Weiyang Palace, a beautiful figure in a green dress looked in the direction of the house of the Marquis. Sadness flashed in her eyes. What was supposed to come had finally come. Marquis. In the backyard of the Marquis' manor, the old butler walked over. 20 years had passed, the butler who was in his prime had also aged. He was no longer tall and straight, showing signs of old age. What's the matter? Ning Chen asked. The new year is almost here. I wonder if Marquis has any special instructions. The old butler respectfully asked. Ning Chen shook his head lightly. Just make the same preparations as the previous years. There's no need for any special arrangements. Yes. The old butler respectfully accepted the order and retreated. In the room, the fire in the furnace danced, dispelling the cold air in the room. Xinu leaned against the headboard of the bed, looking at the figure walking into the room. A smile appeared on her tired face. Counting the days, it should be the end of the year soon, right? It's almost here. Ning Chen nodded. He walked up and sat beside the bed, asking in concern, how are you feeling? Do you still feel tired? I'm fine, I'll be fine after resting for a while. Xinu endured the tiredness that assaulted her as she lightly smiled and replied. Then sleep for a while. Ning Chen helped her to lie down as he spoke softly. Xinu gently nodded. She lay down and slowly closed her eyes, falling into a deep sleep. Ning Chen sat beside her, quietly waiting. He didn't say anything, just quietly watching. For the next 10 days, Xinu spent most of her time sleeping. The time she woke up became less and less. Outside the peaceful inner courtyard, the atmosphere of the end of the year grew stronger and stronger. The entire imperial city was filled with a joyous atmosphere. As the end of the year arrived, the entire imperial city was decorated with lanterns and colored banners. The Marquis Manor was also filled with a joyous atmosphere. Early in the morning, Xinu, who had slept for 2 days, woke up. Her eyes were dazed as she looked outside the window. A moment later, she gradually regained her clarity. Is today the new year? Xinu looked at the man beside the bed and asked. Ning Chen nodded, softly replying. Xinu propped herself up with her arms and tried to get up. Your body isn't well, don't get up. Ning Chen said with concern. I'm fine. Today is the new year, we need to make a trip to the palace. Xinu smiled. Ning Chen sighed inwardly and didn't try to persuade her again. He helped her up. In front of the bronze mirror, Xinu seriously put on her makeup. However, her white hair could no longer be concealed. It was exceptionally dazzling. Let's go. Not long after, Xinu finished her makeup and stood up. Ning Chen nodded, accompanying her as they walked out of the Marquis Manor. In the imperial palace, Xia Qi had set up a banquet, inviting the imperial family and important officials. The time for the banquet had already arrived, but it hadn't started yet. Your Majesty, shall we start the banquet? An attendant walked up and asked in a low voice. Let's wait a moment more. Xia Qi looked outside the hall, his eyes filled with anticipation. Grand Princess has arrived. Prince Consort has arrived. At this moment, a report rang out outside the hall. At the end of the stone steps, 2 figures walked over together. Their white robes and white hair were extremely striking. Inside the main hall, the members of the imperial family and the important ministers of the imperial court stood up one after another and bowed in greeting. Master, Aunt Jiu. Xia Qi walked out of the banquet and welcomed them. This was the first time Xinu entered the palace after returning. Looking at the officials and imperial family, she didn't recognize many of them. 20 years had passed and everything was still the same, but the people had changed. At the head of the banquet, Ning Chen and Xinu sat next to each other. The banquet officially began. One by one, the imperial family rose to propose a toast. The atmosphere gradually became lively. Ning Chen welcomed them with a smile. He didn't reject anyone who proposed a toast. Seeing that the legendary Jiming Marquis wasn't so unreasonable, the young imperial family members also relaxed. They all stood up and proposed a toast to the Marquis they worshipped. The lively banquet lasted for more than 2 hours. At the end of the banquet, the officials and imperial relatives left one by one. Xia Qi walked up to the 2 of them and looked at the woman's white hair. A trace of tears flashed in his eyes as he said, Aunt Jiu, what happened to your hair? Xinu smiled, Aunt Jiu is old, so of course my hair will turn white. Qi, you have done well these years. Grand Xia is our home, you must protect it well. Qi, will work hard and won't disappoint Aunt Jiu. Xia Qi nodded his head vigorously. Xinyu's face flashed with gratification. Looking at the person beside her, she said, "Husband, let's go to Weiyang Palace to take a look." Ning Qin nodded and helped her up before walking out of the hall. Just as the two of them left, an old imperial consecrator walked out. Looking at the emperor in front of him, he sighed, "Your Majesty, the princess won't be able to hold on until today." When Xia Qi heard that, his body trembled violently. Sorrow filled his heart. In Weiyang Palace, the green-robed woman was waiting. Not long later, the two of them appeared. After 20 years, they finally met again. "You're back." Qing Ning looked at the two of them, smiling with tears in her eyes. We're back." A smile appeared on Xinyu's face as she replied. "Husband, please leave for a moment. I have some things to say to Sister Qing Ning." Xinu looked at the person beside her and said softly. Ning Qin nodded and turned to leave. Qing Ning looked at the woman in front of her, tears welling up in her eyes. 20 years had passed so quickly. Xinu walked up, there wasn't much sadness on her face. She smiled, "Sister Qing Ning, there's no need to be sad for me. In these 20 years, I've already obtained so much. I have no regrets." 100 steps away, Ning Qin stood there silently, waiting patiently. Not long later, Xinu walked over and took the initiative to hold his hand. Smiling, she said, "Husband, we're home. Let's go home." Ning Qin responded softly and walked out of the Weiyang Palace. In the royal capital, although it wasn't too long, the two of them walked for a very long time. This journey felt like an entire lifetime. "Husband, thank you for all these years," Xinu softly said. "Silly girl, we're husband and wife. There's no need to thank me." Ning Qin smiled. The blazing sun headed west. When the two of them returned to the Marquis manor, the sun had already set. The sunset was so beautiful. "Husband, accompany me to watch the sunset one more time." In the backyard of the Marquis manor, Xinu looked at the setting sun and asked. "Okay." Ning Qin suppressed the sadness in his heart and nodded. Xinu lightly leaned on his shoulder and murmured, "Husband, these 20 years were the happiest time of Xinu's life." "Really?" Ning Chen's eyes flashed with tears. He smiled, "Weren't you curious about what I was drawing? 2 days ago, I finished it. Take a look." After saying that, Ning Chen took out the drawing from his robes and unfolded it, passing it to the woman beside him. The woman in the drawing was wearing a long dress. Her hair was like a waterfall, and her face was flawless. It was so lifelike that it was like a girl in Grand Xia had just matured. When she looked at her, she could topple a city. When she looked at her again, she could topple an entire country. Xinu looked at the woman in the drawing. Her tears flowed down as a bright smile bloomed on her face. "Husband, let's meet again in the next life." As she murmured, the woman's arm fell to her side. She had a faint smile on her face. In this short life, she had no regrets. Ning Chen's body trembled. Tears dripped from his eyes, wetting his clothes. The sun had completely set, and the afterglow cast a long shadow on the two of them. Chapter 785. In the manor of Jiming Marquis, under the setting sun, Ning Qin carried the dead Xinu and left the Marquis manor step by step. From this day onwards, the Marquis of Great Xia's imperial city would no longer be ignorant. Somewhere in the starry sky, a plain-clothed figure walked through thousands of mountains and rivers, going to the heavens. Star after star, domain after domain. After walking for an unknown number of days and miles, the plain-clothed figure stepped into the all-heaven starfield and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The all-heaven starfield was filled with gods and Buddhas. It was rumored that every starfield where gods and Buddhas appeared had their own beliefs. It was a peaceful land. The Shimi Buddhist kingdom was a holy land for Buddhist cultivators. It was guarded by many vital stars, and Buddhist cultivators had reached the peak of the world. In the boundless Holy Land, many white-clothed monks sat on the ground, meditating and chanting sutras. There were so many of them that it was impossible to count them all. They were separated by 3 meters, and golden swastikas surrounded them. It was a shocking sight. In front of the monks, 3 white-bearded Buddhas sat quietly. They looked kind and gentle, as if they were real Buddhas living in the mortal world. Below the Holy Land, countless people worshipped and prayed for the protection of the Buddhas. In the distance, plain-clothed figures walked over. Their faces were still young, but their eyes were filled with hardships, and they looked very tired. In the Holy Land, the 3 white-bearded Buddhas opened their eyes and looked at the figure walking over. Their eyes shone. Boundless merit and overflowing sin. What a special young man. In the vast Holy Land, the plain-clothed figure walked step by step among the many monks. Although it seemed slow, it affected the wind and clouds. "Benefactor, why have you come?" the human Buddha Lord on the left of the 3 white-bearded Buddhas asked. "To ask about the afterlife," Ningchen said softly. "Benefactor, do you believe in the afterlife?" the Earth Buddha Lord on the right asked. "No," Ningchen said honestly. "Since Benefactor does not believe, why have you come to ask?" the human Buddha Lord asked again. "I cannot see the afterlife, so I do not believe. However, everyone says that the 3 Buddha Lords of the Buddhist kingdom can see the afterlife. Therefore, I have come to ask," Ningchen answered. "We cannot see the afterlife either," the heavenly Buddha Lord in the middle said calmly for the first time. "Since you cannot see it, why do Buddhists believe in the afterlife?" Ningchen asked. "Not seeing it does not mean it does not exist." Heavenly Buddha Lord looked at the people in front of him and said, "The cycle of life never stops. Other than gods and Buddhas, no one can create life. The inheritance of life is the cycle of reincarnation." "Buddha Lord, do you think that people can reincarnate after death?" Ningchen asked seriously. "Everything has a cycle of reincarnation. Life does not appear out of thin air, nor does it disappear out of thin air. It is the same for humans, and it is the same for ants," Heavenly Buddha Lord said slowly. "How can I prove it?" Ningchen asked seriously. "Unable to prove it." Heavenly Buddha Lord said calmly, "Benefactor, you already knew the answer in your heart before you came to the Buddha kingdom. Why do you need to ask again? You will tell me in your next life. If you believe it, then it will be there. If you don't believe it, then it won't be there. Benefactor, please speak your mind." Seeking fate, Ningchen said softly. Heavenly Buddha Lord was silent. After a moment, he said, "Above the Holy Land, there is a wishing mountain. It has a height of 99,000 steps. There is a Buddha on the mountain, but only the most sincere can see it. Benefactor, if you can reach the top of the mountain and see my Buddha, perhaps your wish will be fulfilled. Many thanks for your guidance, Buddhist Lord." Ningchen bowed. "Remember, as long as you are sincere, it will work," Heavenly Buddha Lord emphasized again. Ningchen nodded and bowed respectfully. Then, he turned and walked toward the wishing mountain in the west. Human Buddha Lord looked at Ningchen's back as he walked away. His old eyes flashed with a hint of emotion. This was the first time he had seen someone with such a complicated fate. Most extreme martial artists are crazy. This child has both great merit and great sin at the same time. It can be seen that he has experienced countless trials and tribulations. It is not easy for him to maintain such sincerity, Heavenly Buddha Lord said calmly. The Buddha nation is facing a great calamity. I hope that the good karma formed today will be of help to the Buddha nation in the future, Earth Buddha Lord said. Amitabha. Heavenly Buddha Lord sighed and said, Buddha will help those who are fated. I hope that this child can see my Buddha and fulfill his wish. The wishing mountain had 99,000 steps. It was the Shimi Buddha nation's holy mountain, one of the most unknown places in the world. At the foot of the holy mountain, Bai walked up with an unyielding pride. her knees finally touched the ground. She had never begged anyone in her life, but now, she finally bowed her head. With every step, she bowed and kowtowed. On the 99,000 steps on the path to Buddha, she bowed 99,000 times on the path to seeking fate. Her clothes were stained with dust, and she was silent. Gradually, her forehead was dyed red. Her fate in this life was over. She could not ask for anything, but she hoped for the next life to continue her previous fate. Outside the holy ground, the void was floating. A figure in luxurious clothes appeared and stood in the void. Looking at the young man in plain clothes who was praying to Buddha in the distance, a hint of emotion flashed in her eyes. He had come in the end. Your Highness, how did you know that he would come? Didn't he say that he did not believe in the next life? Concubine Yun was puzzled. He does not believe in it. Lin Yuzhen nodded and said, however, what difference does it make whether he believes in it or not? In this world, who has truly witnessed the reincarnation of a person? The most important thing is whether he is willing to let go of his pride for that woman. As the two of them spoke, on the Wishing Mountain, the steps were stained red with blood. It was glaring. The sun rose and set, and the moon rose and set. The figure in plain clothes was still walking up step by step. The blood on his forehead had already dried up several times, and new wounds had appeared on the scab. Fresh blood was seeping out. 2 days later, several large sects not far from the Buddha nation received the news that someone had ascended the Wishing Mountain. The Wishing Mountain was the Buddha nation's sacred mountain. Unless the 3 Buddha lords agreed, no one could approach it. It's the 9th son of Mahist sect. Finally, on the 4th day, a young expert who had returned from the ancient road recognized the figure in plain clothes on the Buddha mountain and exclaimed in shock. A single stone raised 1,000 ripples. Once the news was verified, it quickly spread to every great sect. The heavens were shaken. 3 Buddha lords, we have just received news that the person on the sacred mountain is the 9th son of Mahist sect who set up a trap to kill the supremacies of the various regions. A Buddha nation guardian came forward and reported respectfully. When the human Buddha Lord heard this, he opened his eyes. A flash of brilliance flashed in his eyes as he said, understood. You may leave. Yes. The Buddha nation guardian accepted the order and left. The 9th son of Mahist sect has killed the supremacies of the various regions. He has already incurred the wrath of the world. I believe that someone will come to the Buddha nation very soon. We should not interfere in this matter, said the human Buddha Lord. Indeed. The earth Buddha Lord nodded. In the middle, the heavenly Buddha Lord opened his eyes and said calmly, since that benefactor has ascended the sacred mountain, he is a guest of the Buddha nation. At least, before he leaves the sacred mountain, no one is to disturb him. Your Highness, something seems to have happened. Outside the sacred land, in the void above, Concubine Yun looked at the increasing number of spies around the sacred land and felt that something was amiss. It seems that the identity of that person has been recognized, said Lin Yuzhen. What identity? Asked Concubine Yun, puzzled. Ning Chen, the 9th son of Mahist sect. He is also the culprit who killed the supremacies of the various regions, said Lin Yuzhen calmly. He is the 9th son of Mahist sect. Concubine Yun's face flashed with shock. She had not recognized him at all. Lin Yuzhen nodded and said, he has cultivated for less than 100 years. There is no mistake. Concubine Yun came back to her senses, still in disbelief. So, these spies are here for this person? Yes. Lin Yuzhen replied softly and said, not everyone can ascend the sacred mountain of the Buddha nation. This person has obtained the permission of the 3 Buddha lords to go to the Wishing Mountain, which means that his identity will be exposed soon. If I am not wrong, the Buddha nation will send people here soon. Does he know about this? Asked Concubine Yun, suppressing the shock in her heart. How could someone who can set up a trap to kill the supremacies of the various regions not know about today's consequences? However, he still came, said Lin Yuzhen calmly. As soon as they finished speaking, thunderclouds appeared in the distance of the Buddha nation. An unusually heavy pressure attacked them. It was getting heavier and heavier. It covered the sky and the sun, making people feel that the end of the world was near. They are here. Lin Yuzhen turned around and said slowly. 5 people descended from the thunderclouds. They walked step by step into the Buddha nation. Their powerful auras shook the heavens and the earth. The 5-star venerables arrived together. Their terrifying pressure shocked the whole Buddha nation. The white-robed novice monks opened their eyes in shock. On the Wishing Mountain, the white-robed figure did not seem to be aware of it. She continued to walk up while bowing. The 5-star venerables walked in front of the sacred land. They looked at the 3 white-bearded elders sitting in front of them and said, 3 Buddha lords, the Buddha nation must already know why we are here. This is a personal grudge and has nothing to do with the Buddha nation. We hope that you will not interfere. The human Buddha Lord opened his eyes and looked at the 5 venerables in front of him. He said, the Shimi sacred land is the pure land of the Buddhists. If you have any grudges, please settle them after you leave. One of the 5 venerables stepped forward and said, this person's whereabouts are mysterious and hard to find. We don't want to lose this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. 3 Buddha lords, please do us a favor. The Earth Buddha Lord opened his eyes and said, the pure land of the Buddhists is not suitable for fighting. Please wait for a few days. Another star venerable stepped forward and said coldly, what if we don't agree? The human Buddha Lord and the Earth Buddha Lord narrowed their eyes. It seemed that this matter would be difficult to resolve peacefully. They did not care about the identity of the young man. However, the Wishing Mountain was the sacred land of the Buddha nation. How could they allow anyone to enter it? Amitabha. The situation was in a stalemate for a while. The heavenly Buddha Lord chanted the name of Buddha and opened his eyes. He looked at the 5 venerables in front of him and said calmly, benefactors, the Buddha nation does not like fighting, but we will not allow anyone to bully us. If you insist on being aggressive, we have no choice but to offend you. When the 5 venerables saw this, their expressions turned cold. These 3 stubborn bald donkeys were really asking for trouble. Don't be careless. The 3 Buddha lords of the Buddha nation are not simple people. No one has seen them fight for many years. A middle-aged man in a green robe among the 5 venerables reminded them when the battle was about to start. 5 against 3. We have shown them enough respect, another man in a white robe said coldly. In the void, Lin Yuzhen looked at this scene. After a while, the corners of her mouth curled up. She closed the folding fan in her hand and took a step forward. She flew toward the Holy Land. Her movement technique was graceful and graceful. Under everyone's shocked gazes, Lin Yuzhen's figure flew between the 2 sides. She opened the folding fan in her hand and said with a smile, 3 Buddhist lords, there is no need to trouble you with such a trivial matter. Leave it to me. Prince Qi, Lin Yuzhen. Among the 5 venerables, the man in a white robe recognized the person in front of him. His expression darkened as he spoke coldly. Chapter 786. In the Shimi Holy Land, white-robed people climbed the stairs. With each step, they bowed and kowtowed, their black hair dyed red. Not far away, Prince Qi appeared. His hair was tied up high, and his face was handsome. He was dressed in men's clothing, and his aura was oppressive. Legend Ling Su had cultivated to become a paragon of the mortal world. Everyone, the Shimi Holy Land is a pure Buddhist land. You're going too far by being so aggressive. Lin Yuzhen looked at the 5 of them. Does Prince Qi also want to get involved in this mess? Asked the azure-robed middle-aged man. Mess? You don't have the qualifications. Lin Yuzhen opened the fan in her hand and said with an indifferent smile. Arrogant. The white-robed man's expression turned cold. His figure flashed, and he raised his hand to grab Prince Qi's throat. Lin Yuzhen sneered and closed her fan. Her slender hand condensed yuan as she met his attack. With a bang, their palms collided. Golden light shone brightly above Buddha Mountain, and it constantly shrank, forcefully suppressing the shockwaves from their battle. When Lin Yuzhen saw this, a strange look flashed across her eyes. This 10,000 years old Buddhist holy land was indeed extraordinary. On the other side, the white-robed man was forced back several steps after that palm strike. Blood qi surged through his meridians, and the white-robed man forcibly suppressed his true qi. Looking at Prince Qi, his expression sank. What a powerful woman. Prince Qi, Lin Yuzhen, you really do live up to your reputation, said the middle-aged man coldly. You praise me too much. Lin Yuzhen calmly stood in front of the five of them. There's no need for so much nonsense. If you can get past me, you can think about Mo Gate's 9th disciple. Attack. The middle-aged man snorted and didn't say anything else. His true qi erupted, and his figure flashed like an aurora. The other four immediately attacked as well. Their powerful cultivation bases were completely released, and their attacks were as fast as lightning. Lin Yuzhen's feet spun, and her figure flickered. She waved her fan, and each of her moves was ordinary, but each of her moves was extraordinary. On the Holy Land, white-robed monks were chanting sutras. Dazzling golden light constantly gathered, suppressing the shockwaves from the battle. At the back of the battlefield, Heavenly Buddha Lord looked at the figure dressed in men's clothing. His old eyes flashed with a touch of admiration. What a handsome skill! This Prince Qi was no weaker than a late True Realm expert. The Spirit Void Realm is really full of capable people. The Ji family is already famous in the world. Now, they have Prince Qi as well. If there are no other geniuses from the other star regions, they will really be at a disadvantage in this world, said the human Buddha Lord. The Ji clan has the bloodline of a deity, so it's not strange for them to have many strong cultivators. Comparatively speaking, Prince Qi is just a duke of the mortal world, yet he was able to reach his current level. It's really amazing. However, the starfields are vast, and there are countless geniuses. It's not like the other starfields don't have strong cultivators who can contend with Spirit Void. It's just that they haven't appeared yet, replied the Earth Buddha Lord. The human Buddha Lord looked at the blood-stained prayer mountain in the distance and said softly, that benefactor has cultivated for less than 100 years, but he has already comprehended the extreme path. This kind of temperament and perseverance is rare in the world. It's a pity that he doesn't have much time left. Otherwise, he would definitely be one of the strongest cultivators in the future. Everyone has their own opportunities. This person's fate is extremely complicated. What his future will be like is not something we can predict. Hopefully, he can meet the Buddha and resolve the troubles in his heart, said the Heavenly Buddha Lord calmly. At the top of the prayer mountain, the knowing destiny cultivators who had walked for 5 days had finished the last step of the heaven stair. In 5 days, they had walked 99,000 steps, bowed 99,000 times, and kowtowed 99,000 times. Drops of blood stained every step of the heaven stair. It was dazzling and eye-catching. At the top of the mountain, a huge Buddha statue towered into the clouds. It was 100 feet tall and shone with golden light. It was extraordinary. Ning Chen bowed and knelt before the Buddha. He bowed 3 times and kowtowed 9 times, praying for fate in the next life. The Buddha statue shook, and golden light shone brightly, illuminating the entire prayer mountain. On the Holy Land, everyone felt it. They looked at the mountain in the distance, shocked. Let's end this quickly. Sensing the change, the middle-aged man's expression darkened, and he said sternly. The 4 of them responded and attacked together. Vital qi surged, and their attacks became fiercer. Lin Yuzhen's figure flashed, and she flew 100 feet away, avoiding the attacks of the 5. Her eyes turned cold. 3 Buddha Lords, I didn't want to use weapons in a peaceful place of Buddhism. However, it seems that I have to be impolite now. As soon as she finished speaking, an ancient and exquisite sword appeared in Lin Yuzhen's hand. The moment the sword was unsheathed, the wind and clouds in the 9 heavens changed. The cry of a phoenix shook the world. Phoenix cry sword. The expressions of the 5 people who rushed up changed drastically. They wanted to retreat, but it was too late. In Lin Yuzhen's hand, the cry of a phoenix entered the ground, and a surge of vigorous energy spread out. In the dazzling light, the 5 of them flew out, vomiting blood. On the Holy Land, the white-robed novice monks trembled. Their chanting was interrupted, and the golden light around them dissipated. Late-stage true realm. The human Buddha Lord's eyes flashed with shock. The sword just now was undoubtedly the fluctuation of the late-stage true realm. Had Prince Chi cultivated to such an astonishing level? More than 100 years, late-stage true realm. She is truly a peerless genius. The earthly Buddha Lord sighed. To be able to fight against the Lingxiu Ji family and Prince Chi, Lin Yuzhen, on her own, was indeed terrifying. At the same time, golden light shone on the Wishing Mountain. The 100-feet-tall Buddha statue shone brightly, illuminating the sky. Billions of people gathered together, and the golden Buddha appeared in the world. The Buddha looked so dignified that no one dared to look at it directly. When the Buddha appeared in the world, Ning Chen remained silent and bowed again. "Young man, what is it that made you so sad?" "I can't ask for more." Ning Chen kowtowed and said. "Ask for what?" "Ask for fate." Ning Chen said honestly. "Fate comes and goes. It is fate. Do you know what price you have to pay to change fate? Are you willing to pay any price?" Ning Chen replied. 9 reincarnations. After 1,000 years, the same flowers will bloom in the world. In these 1,000 years, you will be faced with thousands of disasters and tribulations. Your life will be worse than death. If you die, you will sink into oblivion, unable to be reincarnated. Are you willing? Yes. Ning Chen replied softly. After 1,000 years, go and find her. In the vast sea of people, whether you can continue your fate will depend on your luck. Thank you. Ning Chen bowed. The world is obsessed with life and death. Young man, your life has been rough and you've experienced so many deaths. Can't you see through it? It's because I've experienced so much that I can't let go. Ning Chen's eyes flashed with exhaustion. Death isn't the end of life, but a change in the form of life. Young man, you once risked your life to protect the world and endured countless tribulations. As long as you are willing to let go of your obsession and focus on your own Tao, you will be the closest person to God in this world. As she spoke, the golden Buddha statue formed by billions of people's faith scattered and the dignified image gradually disappeared. Ning Chen fell silent as he looked at the golden light that disappeared. A moment later, he got up and walked down the mountain. Above the Shumi sacred ground, Prince Chi blocked 5 venerables by himself. The cry of a phoenix came out of its sheath and its divine might shook the world as it heavily injured 5 true realm experts. The 5 venerables stabilized themselves and looked at the person in front of them with shock and anger. Do you want to leave or continue? I'll keep you company. Lin Yuzhen glanced at the 5 venerables and said indifferently. Before she finished speaking, a figure in plain clothes walked over from the distance. Every step was steady as if she had never seen the battle above the sacred ground. After a few breaths, she arrived and bowed respectfully to the 3 Buddha lords. Thank you. Benefactor, since you were able to see our Buddha, it means that you are fated with our Buddhist sect. I hope this trip didn't disappoint you. Heavenly Buddha Lord opened his eyes and said, I will remember your kindness to the Buddhist kingdom. If I have the chance, I will definitely repay you. Ning Chen bowed again and turned to look at the 5 venerables. He said calmly, You're here for me, right? The 9th son of Mo Gate. Venerable Bai Xing couldn't hide his murderous intent. He moved his feet and rushed forward. Lin Yuzhen's expression turned cold. She flashed and blocked in front of him with her sword. Did I allow you to go over? Prince Qi, you, venerable Bai Xing, was furious. He couldn't control his anger, but he didn't dare to move because of Prince Qi's strength. Prince Qi, are you sure you want to protect this person? The leader of the 5 venerables, a middle-aged man in green, walked forward and asked. I've already said that this is a peaceful place for Buddhists. I won't tolerate your impudence, Lin Yuzhen said indifferently. The middle-aged man's expression turned ugly. He glanced at the plain-clothed young man in front of him and snorted coldly. The 9th son of Mo Gate, I don't believe Prince Qi can protect you forever. Let's go. With that, the middle-aged man smashed a huge rock in the distance and turned to walk out of the sacred land. The other 4 venerables coldly glanced at the person in front of them, then turned and followed. After the 5 venerables left, Lin Yuzhen put away her phoenix cry sword. The lightning in the sky dissipated, and the sword returned to its sheath. Miss Lin. Ning Qin said. He thought for a moment and changed his words. Prince Qi, thank you for your help. You're welcome. Lin Yuzhen shook her head and said, 10 years ago, I rashly attacked you. It was really rude of me. Today, I'll repay my mistake. Ning Qin flipped his right hand, and a small green boat appeared. He handed it forward and said, this heavenly boat is useless to me. I'll give it to Prince Qi today. Lin Yuzhen's eyes flashed with surprise when she heard this. 30,000 celestial jade was given away just like that. This 9th son of Mo Gate was really different. Since Brother Ning is so generous, I won't be polite. This heavenly boat is indeed very useful to me. Lin Yuzhen waved her hand and took the heavenly boat from Ning Chen. She said seriously, Brother Ning, where are you going? I'll send you there. Those people won't let it go. I know Brother Ning doesn't mind. However, it's better to avoid trouble, isn't it? Ning Chen was silent for a moment, then he nodded and said, thank you, Prince Qi. The 2 of them bid farewell to the 3 Buddha lords and flew out of the Buddhist kingdom together. Did you see the origin of this person? Heavenly Buddha Lord asked after the 2 of them left. Human Buddha Lord and Earth Buddha Lord shook their heads and said, he had a supreme treasure on him that hid his aura. We only saw what he wanted us to see. Netherworld King's Pure Land, Eastern Region Divine Prefecture, Great Xia Jiming Marquis, Heavenly Buddha Lord said slowly. Human Buddha Lord and Earth Buddha Lord were shocked. People from Netherworld King's Pure Land? How could it be? Could it be that the Netherworld King's boundary had been opened? Chapter 787. In the vast starry sky, the heavenly ship passed by in a flash, merging into the void. On the heavenly ship, a young man in plain clothes stood there, looking at the stars falling behind him. He didn't say a word for several days. Inside the heavenly ship, concubine Yun was puzzled. Your Highness, what is it about this blockhead that you value so much? Lin Yuzhen glanced at the figure in plain clothes. What kind of person do you think is worthy of this king's attention? Concubine Yun was startled. After thinking for a moment, she said, I can't say. But aside from his strength, he doesn't have any other strong points. With your Highness's status, there are countless experts willing to serve you. Why offend the star venerables of the various regions for him? Offend them? Lin Yuzhen smiled indifferently. They don't have that qualification. You think too highly of them, and you think too lightly of this young Master Ning. Concubine Yun, do you know how many extreme Dao martial artists there are in this world? Concubine Yun shook her head. I don't know. No more than 10. Lin Yuzhen calmly said, in the extreme Dao, every step forward is as difficult as ascending the heavens. Without a cultivation method, there is no way to pass it down. Because the extreme Dao is one's own Dao, the extreme Dao is called the extreme. Concubine Yun was shocked. Your Highness, Are you saying that Mo Gates' ninth son is an extreme Dao martial artist? Otherwise, how do you think a crippled person could take 3 of this king's moves without being at a disadvantage? Lin Yuzhen indifferently said. Concubine Yun suppressed her shock and looked ashamed. I was too short-sighted. Lin Yuzhen raised her hand. It's not your fault. After all, there are very few extreme Dao martial artists in this world. It's not strange that you couldn't see through him. But aside from that, there is something else on him that is the true reason this king is willing to help. Concubine Yun looked over at the figure in plain clothes not far away. Your Highness, please tell me. Love. Lin Yuzhen slowly said, do you still remember that woman from 10 years ago? I remember. Yun Ji nodded. Lin Yuzhen sighed softly and said, that girl's martial arts talent is actually very extraordinary, but she was willing to give up immortality. This king doesn't know the reason, but it is nothing more than love. At that time, this king told this young Master Ning about the Buddhist kingdom to test him. Now, I can be sure that this person is not a heartless person. That girl didn't misjudge him. A person who did not believe in an afterlife was willing to travel thousands of miles to the Buddhist kingdom to beg for forgiveness. This was not something that everyone could do. Extreme martial artists were extremely prideful people. They were willing to put down their pride and beg for an afterlife that they did not believe in. It could be seen how important that woman was to him. Your Highness, does the afterlife really not exist? Yun Ji asked seriously. Lin Yuzhen shook her head and said, when you also pry into the secrets of the true realm, you will know how illusory the afterlife is. As the two of them spoke, the starfield fog appeared up ahead. The unique characteristics of the red Luan starfield were clearly visible in the vast starry sky. Ning Chen turned around and looked at the 2 people in the cabin. He said, Your Highness, Miss Yun, we've arrived at the red Luan starfield. I can walk the rest of the way myself. Many thanks. Lin Yuzhen stood up and walked out of the cabin. Looking at the white fog, she narrowed her eyes. Since that's the case, this king won't be sending you off. See you later. See you later. Ning Chen responded and stepped out. He turned into a white light and rushed forward. In the blink of an eye, the white light disappeared between heaven and earth, leaving no trace behind. What a fast movement technique, said Yun Ji in shock. That wasn't a movement technique. That was his sword. Lin Yuzhen said, or perhaps that was his Dao. One day, if you are lucky enough to see him use his full strength, you will understand just how shocking a true extreme Dao sword is. Your Highness's sword is not a match? Asked Yun Ji in shock. In terms of martial prowess, this king fears no one. But in terms of the sword, this king is not even 1 in 10, said Lin Yuzhen calmly. 100 days later, in the Red Luan starfield, a boat drifted in the Red Luan starfield's Mi River. A white-clothed figure walked into the boat and didn't leave for countless days and nights. After drifting for dozens of years, the boat seemed to be unable to find a ferry. No matter how much wind or rain there was no movement at all. 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years. Day after day, year after year, the Mi River gradually became barren. Most of the people who had come to the river had grown old. At some point, only Lingji remained. Mister, I also have to leave. Please take care of yourself. The young girl from before had now grown into a slender and elegant woman. She respectfully bowed in the direction of the boat. After waiting for a long time without any movement, her eyes dimmed and she turned to leave. Just at this moment, a white-clothed figure walked out of the boat. His long black hair was dotted with snow-white dots. It was abnormally eye-catching. Lingji was startled. Looking at his white hair, she couldn't help covering her mouth, tears flowing out of her eyes. Ning Chen waved his hand, and a ray of light flew out and landed in front of her. Don't let yourself suffer outside. Here are 20,000 immortal jades. Take them with you in case you need them, said Ning Chen. Mister, your hair, said Lingji tearfully. It's fine. Let's go. It's getting late, said Ningchen calmly. Lingji wiped away her tears and knelt down, respectfully kowtowing. After kneeling, she stood up and put away the immortal jades. Suppressing her reluctance, she turned and left. After Lingji left, the Mi River became calm once more. The white-clothed figure once more walked into the boat as if she had never left. Time flowed like water. In the blink of an eye, another 5 years passed. On the banks of the Mi River, flower buds grew on the undying immortality peach tree. They were as white as snow, and on the night they bloomed, all the withered trees within 1,000 miles came back to life. On the boat, Ning Chen sighed softly. He couldn't hide it anymore. On this night, on different life planets in the Red Phoenix star field, many old people who had been sleeping for a long time opened their eyes and looked at the distant Mi River. Their eyes shone brightly. What a powerful life force! In an instant, several people walked out of seclusion. Terrifying auras lingered around them. None of them were below the true realm. These old monsters who had lived for countless years were awakened by the life force of the undying immortality peach tree. They all came out of seclusion. In the bright room of the Dawn Moon restaurant in Jinsei City, the Dawn Moon restaurant's master, who was trimming the flowers, looked into the distance with a grave expression. This is troublesome. On the Red Phoenix star, in the Red Phoenix King realm, an unprecedentedly terrifying aura woke up and walked out of the god realm. First ancestor. The Red Phoenix realm's king, princess, consort, and several ancestors of the Red Phoenix realm bowed respectfully to welcome the first ancestor. Red Phoenix, come with me, said the first ancestor of the Red Phoenix realm. Yes. Princess Hung Wan bowed. Soon, 2 people flew out of the king realm and rushed toward the direction of the divine tree's aura. After a night of shocking changes, the world was once again in conflict. Countless strong people moved out to see the birth of a rare treasure. On the tranquil river, the pleasure boat in the middle of the lake was still quiet, as if nothing had happened. 100 days later, the wind and clouds in the sky suddenly changed. Wind and thunder rose in the sky. Many extremely powerful auras descended from the sky. 2 old monsters, who were surrounded by the aura of death, stood in the air. They looked haggard and had 1 foot in a coffin. Their aura was so powerful that it was terrifying. A group of strong people appeared and landed on the shore of the tranquil river. The 2 old monsters of the true realm looked at the pleasure boat in the middle of the lake with grave expressions. Attack! With an order, iron chains extended out and locked onto the pleasure boat in the middle of the lake. The iron chains hooked onto the boat and pulled it toward the shore. In the pleasure boat, the white-clothed person looked at the sword and saber on the table, which hadn't been unsheathed for a long time. She sighed inwardly. After 30 years, she picked up the sword and saber again. In the next moment, the iron chains that hooked onto the pleasure boat broke apart and scattered. Since you forced me to this point, I can only accompany you. As she spoke, Nian Qing was unsheathed. Silver light filled the eyes. The blade that instantly sealed their throats was too fast for the eyes to take in. Before they could see the saber clearly, before they could see the person clearly, the saber passed by. Vermilion blood spurted out. The 2 old monsters of the true realm were shocked. When they turned around, they saw that the 10 subordinates behind them had all been beheaded. No one will disturb us now. Please. Ning Chen clenched his left hand and released his astral soul. Immediately, the dark clouds in the sky disappeared and the stars in the sky swayed. The white-clothed person's body moved like lightning. His sword was like a graceful swan. The terrifying sword aura shook people's hearts. The 2 old monsters of the true realm received the sword. With a bang, the sky was filled with sword light. An unparalleled sword aura broke through the barrier of true yuan and forced the 2 back. How is this possible? The 2 old monsters of the true realm retreated several steps. Their faces were filled with disbelief. "You've been asleep for too long and have already forgotten how to fight." While speaking, the ground beneath Ning Chen shook violently. A broken ancient sword rose up. In an instant, the earth energy within 10,000 miles of Mishui River gathered and sealed the entire battlefield. Immortal trapping sword. The two old monsters' pupils shrank as they exclaimed. "Don't worry, I don't need this sword to deal with you." Then, the white-clothed person moved again. With a saber and sword in hand, his body moved like lightning. Knowing that they had miscalculated, the two old monsters of the true realm immediately gathered their thoughts and used their full strength to fight the person in front of them. The saber and sword shook the two old monsters. Under the setting sun, the saber and sword created streaks of deathly splendor. It was immeasurable. The two old monsters of the true realm didn't dare to be careless. They split their attention to immortal trapping sword not far away while working together to deal with the might of the ultimate martial. On the other side of the battlefield, the red light on immortal trapping sword became more and more dazzling, making the two old monsters of the true realm more and more wary. "You go get that sword. Leave this person to me," said one of the old monsters. "Be careful." The other person's figure flashed and flew toward immortal trapping sword. Ugh! Suddenly, a muffled groan sounded. The old monster who went to snatch the sword immediately turned back, only to see that in the battle behind him, a broken stone sword silently passed by without any warning, directly piercing into the heart of the cyan-robed old monster. "This is immortal slaying." Before he could finish speaking, the old monster's figure collapsed. Even in death, he couldn't close his eyes. "Sorry, I said I wouldn't use immortal trapping sword, but I never said I wouldn't use immortal slaying sword." Ning Chen waved his hand and took immortal slaying sword. He looked at the figure not far away and said coldly. Chapter 788. Blood Qi filled the air. Immortal execution appeared out of nowhere and pierced through the old man's heart, instantly destroying his vitality. "Now, you're the only one left. Come." Ning Chen waved his hand and immortal execution flew over. Baleful qi surged, sharp and bone-piercing. Bai Yi moved, her astral soul was as fast as lightning. Immortal execution was as heavy as a mountain. The two swords moved at the same time, causing the wind and clouds to change. The old man in purple was shocked. He retreated again and again. Since he woke up, this was the first time he felt so close to death. The sword and palm collided. Not far away, immortal trapping sword's red light became even brighter. Borrowing the power of the earth, it sealed the battle. After more than 10 moves, the battle became more and more intense. Immortal execution's power was unparalleled in the world. Even those in the true realm didn't dare to be distracted. Sword art, extreme heaven. Extreme heaven appeared. Immortal execution's baleful qi soared into the sky. Boundless power pierced through heaven and earth, shocking the world. Seeing this, the old man in purple's expression changed slightly. He condensed his qi and focused on dealing with the incoming attack. Suddenly, a change occurred. A red sword light streaked across, piercing through the old man's chest. How can this be? The old man in purple staggered. Before he could react, Bai Yi flashed and immortal execution appeared, piercing through his body. "Sorry, I lied when I said I wouldn't use immortal trapping sword." Ning Chen said coldly and pulled out his immortal sword. Instantly, blood splattered like rain. The old man fell to the ground, his blood dyeing the earth red. A hero of a generation died with grievances. Looking at the corpses on the ground, Ning Chen waved his astral soul. Rumbling sounds echoed and the earth split open, swallowing all the corpses. After a while, the cracks closed and the riverside returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. The sun set and Ning Chen looked at the afterglow in the west. His eyes were getting more and more tired. Soon, Behind him, immortal trapping sword's brilliance retracted and sank into the earth, disappearing. On the divine tree, white peach blossoms bloomed, beautiful and dazzling. Around the divine tree, the aura of time flowed, even the space was distorted. After a while, Baiyi's figure disappeared from the riverside and returned to the boat. Inside the pleasure boat, a small lamp flickered. Ning Chen put down his sword and blade, and with a wave of his hand, an ancient and mottled zither appeared. It was the divine zither Yama King, the inherited divine weapon of the white tiger deity. After countless years, the body and strings of the zither had been damaged. Before the opening of the ancient battlefield, the waning moon house's master helped to repair the divine zither. During the battle on the ancient battlefield, the King of Hell's Tune, the judgment of 3 knights, severely injured the star venerables of various domains. This was a true weapon of slaughter. Unless it was absolutely necessary, it should not appear in the world. Ning Chen wiped the body of the zither. The sharp strings cut his fingers, and drops of blood dripped down, silently seeping into the zither. Outside the boat, a cold wind blew past, causing ripples on the surface of the lake. The pleasure boat also drifted along with it. The trees wanted to be still, but the wind did not stop. It was unknown when the storm in Jianghu would end. Night fell, and the bright moon illuminated the 9 prefectures. On the pleasure boat, the sound of zither rang out. It was peaceful and tranquil, standing aloof from worldly affairs. Suddenly, hundreds of black shadows descended from the sky. Their auras were so powerful that they covered the moonlight. This is the place. Among the hundreds of black figures, there were 3 exceptionally powerful auras that far surpassed the others. They were extremely eye-catching. The strong cultivators had come again to seize the treasure. Their killing intent covered the sky and the moon, making people's hearts palpitate. In the pleasure boat, the peaceful sound of zither changed, and in an instant, the Yama King played, and the yellow springs opened the way. The sound spread out, and the killing intent exploded. The formless sound waves attacked people's minds. Before the black figures could react, their bodies exploded one by one, and blood fell like rain. Kill! Among the many black figures, 3 people rushed out, and their scimitars were like crescent moons, slashing toward the pleasure boat in the lake. Ding! The Yama King moved, and the world stilled. After a moment, a terrifying killing intent spread out, and the Mishui River trembled. Ugh! The 3 figures all flew out dozens of feet, and they staggered while vomiting blood. Retreat! In an instant, the black figures that filled the sky were all killed. The 3 people's expressions sank, and they no longer lingered on the battle. They quickly rushed out of the battlefield. You can't retreat. A calm voice came out from the pleasure boat. Above the Mishui River, a red light rose, sealing the battle. The zither sounded again, and the world shook. A powerful killing intent surged. The 3 tried to block, but the sound was formless and unstoppable. Blood filled the sky. The sound entered their bodies, and the 3 figures exploded. Blood and bones flew everywhere. The battle was over, and the zither music stopped. The lake surged, swallowing up the blood and bones, and gradually returning to normal. The moon set and the sun rose. Time passed. The riverside was no longer an undisturbed pure land. Wave after wave of powerhouses spying on the treasures of heaven and earth arrived. However, without exception, all of them were buried here. At some point, the Mishui River's water had turned red. It was so glaring that no one dared to approach. Rumors about the Mishui River also quickly spread. One spread to 2, 2 to 3, and the entire world knew about it. The Mishui River had a treasure that could allow people to live forever. However, this treasure was guarded by a monster, and anyone who approached would only die. Rumors could never be completely trusted. But no matter what, the terrifying rumors stopped many people who wanted to fish in troubled waters. After another 20 years, the Mishui River had become a land of death. The blood-red water made it difficult for any living thing to survive. No one dared to approach it anymore. During these 20 years, countless experts had died here. No matter how many people came, none of them survived. The floating pleasure boat on the lake was as calm as before. The white-robed figure on the boat had almost all his black hair turned white. He did not have much lifespan left. Whether it was day or night, the deathly still Mishui River was abnormally cold. The yin energy of countless cultivators lingered, causing chilly winds to howl and destroy the surrounding vegetation. After 20 years of killing, it was rare to find peace. It was as if the old monsters of the Red Phoenix star field had forgotten about the boundless life origin energy that had appeared out of nowhere and did not come. The snow-white peach blossoms on the undying immortality peach tree by the Mishui River had already fallen. An azure divine fruit had grown at the center of the divine tree. Boundless life energy was faintly discernible. Even though the time and Yellow Spring's divine restrictions blocked it, one could still feel its incomparably powerful life energy. 10 years later, the life energy of the divine tree's fruit became even stronger. The white-robed figure appeared on the riverbank. He stood under the divine tree silently. His white hair was no longer black, and it gently fluttered in the cold wind. 100 years had passed, and the undying immortality peach tree's fruit was also close to ripening. No fear of death could be seen in Ning Chen's eyes. Instead, there was a trace of exhaustion and relief. Mo Gates' ninth son. It is indeed you. Just at this moment, light gathered in the sky, and many figures walked out. Each of them was at least half a step into the true realm. The 6 at the front were all above the true realm. This was a shocking lineup, and a shocking pressure swept out in all directions. The clouds in the sky changed, and the bright moon lost its color. I have been waiting for you for a long time. Ning Chen looked at the sky from before the divine tree and said indifferently. Shameless boasting. First Ancestor Hong Wan walked forward and coldly said to the white-robed figure below. An exceptionally beautiful woman walked out from behind First Ancestor Hong Wan. She was wearing a wide dress, and the hatred in her eyes was difficult to conceal. It was hard to say who was right and who was wrong. The beginning of deceit would end with deceit. Everything was false. However, once you fell in love, you had to taste the bitter consequences. Hong Wan, retreat to the side. Ancestor Hong Wan calmly instructed. Soon after, her figure descended, arriving on the ground. The other 5 venerables also descended and stood on one side. Their auras gradually rose. In the sky, the 12 half-step true realm experts were surrounded by golden chains, forming an inescapable net that sealed the space within 100 miles. Once I deal with you, it should be over, right? Ning Chen glanced at the gradually ripening fruit on the divine tree and waved his right hand. A blood-red sword flew out from the boat at the center of the lake. The instant it entered his hand, the stars in the sky flickered, and starlight fell on the world. His astral soul appeared, and Zhu Immortal also appeared. Baleful aura pervaded the entire battlefield. Venerables, please enlighten me. With the appearance of 2 swords, the battle began. 7 figures moved at the same time. Sabers, swords, palms, and halberds shook, shaking the sky and shaking the earth. There was a loud explosion, and the waves were 10,000 zhang high. 6 against 1, terrifying shockwaves violently surged, shaking the world. True Realm, Ultimate Martial, a martial art that transcended the limits. It didn't matter if they won or lost, only life and death. The white-robed white-haired knowing destiny held 2 swords in his hands. He had been crippled for nearly 100 years, but his sword intent was even stronger than before. Every move of his unfathomable sword was simple yet shocking. 6 true realm experts, 2 mid-true realm experts, and 4 early true realm experts. This was an invincible lineup, but under the brilliance of the sword, every move was unable to surpass the heavens. After 100 moves, the 6 venerables couldn't hide the shock in their hearts. This kid's strength was so terrifying. In the sky, Queen Hongwuan looked at the battle below. The more intense the battle was, the more hatred in her heart increased. Everyone, be careful. This kid still has an immortal sword that he hasn't used yet. After a long battle, First Ancestor Hongwuan's expression became more solemn. If immortal trapping didn't use it, it meant that this kid still had some strength left. She couldn't be careless. Sword art, nothingness. The star soul sword spun, and the starlight devoured the incoming palm energy. Bai Yi's figure disappeared, and the immortal slaying sword slashed out, dazzling the eyes. Sword art, heavenly sword. The heavenly sword appeared, and the vast sea sword split the sky. In an instant, there was only one sword in the world, stunning the world. The 3 venerables blocked the attack, and their auras surged as they blocked the heavenly sword. With a loud explosion, the sky and earth were separated. The heavenly sword shattered, and the 3 venerables took a step back at the same time. In the aftermath, Bai Yi walked out. Her body was abnormally dazzling with red light, and the earth rumbled. The earth chi within 10,000 li was absorbed into the sword in her left hand. Immortal trapping appeared, and the battle reached its peak. Everyone, you've come from afar. How can I not show you the power of my immortal sword? As soon as she finished speaking, Bai Yi moved. Her figure was like an illusion. 3 swords, 3 sword bodies. Red, black, and white. The person and the sword were as fast as lightning and as heavy as a mountain. The 6 venerables' expression became serious, and they used all their strength to block the attack. The heavy palm collided with the fast sword, and the divine halberd blocked 10,000 caddies. With a violent tremor, dust waves rose from 3 directions. The aftershock shook the surroundings. The earth chi within 10,000 li was strengthened, and the immortal slaying sword's sharpness increased its momentum. One sword broke the divine halberd, and the sword's momentum fell, and one sword slashed the true realm. Blood spurted out, reaching a height of several zhang, and merged into the blood-red lake, making the cold lake even redder. Blood flowed out from Zhi Ming's right hand, and he suffered a backlash. His immortal sword was dyed red. Chapter 789. By the riverside, the 6 venerables were in a killing formation. Knowing destiny had white hair. Holding his sword, he was invincible. Fairy slaying and fairy trapping were used at the same time. With the support of the chi of earth, one sword slashed the realm of truth and dyed the night sky red. The 5 venerables were shocked. Before they could react, the sword light came again. One of them was stunned and his arm was severely injured. Don't be careless. The first venerables of Hongwuan warned. The other 4 venerables immediately calmed down and recovered from their shock. They focused on the battle. In the battle, the white-haired figure in plain clothes waved his 2 swords, slashing, stabbing, and dragging. Every move was not sloppy at all. From the beginning to the end, his expression was calm and there was no change in his emotions. He was like a battle machine, terrifyingly calm. In a lifetime of 100 years, countless battles of life and death had created the knowing destiny today. He was absolutely calm and emotionless. Fairy slaying slashed with unparalleled sharpness. Fairy trapping fell like the sky. When the sword light arrived, the first venerables of Hongwuan received it. With a violent tremor, his body slid several feet away. Sword technique, 3 lights shine at the same time. The white-haired figure moved again. His white hair danced in the wind. His body split into 3 parts. His sword was supreme. The sword danced in spring and autumn. 3 sword lights surged out. They were dazzling. As the sword lights passed, the void split into 3 parts. The entire night sky was illuminated by the shocking sword lights as if it was daytime. The sword of 100 years, the only one in the world. The three venerables received the sword. The terrifying sword light pierced through their bodies. Blood splattered everywhere. Groans were heard. The three venerables retreated more than 10 steps. Their bodies were dyed red. The three venerables retreated. Not far away, another venerable's palm had arrived. His palm landed on the body of the knowing destiny cultivator. Blood dripped down silently. Ning Chen's protective sword will blocked most of the palm power and protected the vital parts of his body. As the battle reached its climax, the five venerables' expressions were unusually heavy. Although they had expected this battle to be difficult, they did not expect it to be so difficult. 1 dead and 4 heavily injured. They had paid an unacceptable price in exchange for the 9th disciple of Mahist sect being injured. This situation was unexpected. In the center of the battle, the white-haired figure stood quietly. Her white hair danced. Her face was the same as it was 100 years ago, but with more hardships. Descent of the 6th Tao, myriad demonic tribulations. After a moment of stillness, in the center of the battlefield, Ning Chen's immortal execution swept across. Baleful aura filled the air. Trapping immortal left his hand and coiled around his body. Red light soared into the 4 seas. Supreme forbidden sword. He took a step forward and soared into the 9 heavens. His sword light soared into the clouds, and a terrifying aura surged. Stop him. The expression of the Hong Wan ancestor changed. This move was the move to open the ancient battlefield. She absolutely couldn't allow Qin Wentian to succeed. The other 4 venerated beings also heard about it. Their figures flew out quickly and went straight into the sky to block the former's attack. Above the 9 heavens, Ning Chen looked at the 5 supremes who were closing in on him. The corners of his lips curled up into a cold smile. It seemed that the sword in the ancient battlefield had left a deep impression on the world. Nirvana. Suddenly, the power of the sword intent that filled the sky changed, and the accumulated power ended in an instant. Countless sword lights crisscrossed, and it was incomparably magnificent. The swords of Nirvana rained down endlessly from the sky, splitting the heavens and splitting the earth. The 5 venerables' expressions changed. It was already too late for them to counterattack. They used all of their strength to protect their vitals as they forcefully withstood the sword light that filled the sky. Bang! Blood splattered everywhere. The 5 venerated beings crashed onto the ground. Sword chi filled the air. Ning Chen's figure slowly descended. Looking at the heavily injured venerated beings, he didn't say anything and walked forward step by step. The venerated beings of the true realm stood up one by one. Before they could react, Bai Yi swept past them. Immortal execution took their lives, and blood splashed everywhere. 4 heads flew into the air. A beautiful figure appeared in front of the Hong Wan ancestor and used her body to block the sword that would take their lives. Immortal execution stopped an inch away from the throat. Ning Chen looked at the woman in front of him. His eyes were calm, and there wasn't the slightest ripple. Princess Hong Wan's eyes reflected the white-haired figure in front of her. It was so familiar, yet so unfamiliar. She didn't know why, but tears fell from her eyes. They were filled with hatred and heartache. He was stronger than before. He was so strong that even the first ancestor lost to him. However, his life was about to come to an end. Looking at the tears falling from the woman's eyes, Ning Chen put down the sword in his hand and said calmly, "Leave before I change my mind." Princess Hong Wan suppressed the sadness in her heart. She supported the heavily injured first ancestor and left. In the air, the 12 half-step true realm experts put away the golden chains and left together. After the enemies left, Ning Chen stood on the riverbank. Blood dripped from the corner of his mouth and dyed his clothes red. Finally, it was all over. Immortal execution and immortal entrapment stabbed into the ground. The blood on the swords gradually dried up in the wind. 100 years, a long 100 years. He was tired of walking and killing. If there was an afterlife, he would rather be ordinary. Within the time restriction, the god tree swayed. The green fruit gradually shone with a golden light. It was getting closer and closer to ripening. For the next 3 years, the figure on the riverbank didn't move a single step. He silently stood under the tree, waiting for the fruit to ripen. After 100 years, the golden era officially arrived. Geniuses of the various domains emerged one after another. Geniuses continuously entered the corporeal realm, and some even entered the true realm. In the Dawn Moon Tavern, the Dawn Moon Tavern master, who hadn't come out for 100 years, gradually became calmer and calmer. Gradually, she completely restrained her aura, but her true cultivation became more and more terrifying and unpredictable. On the Shinji Peak, Shinji stood on the peak all day long, watching the changes in the world. He also didn't leave half a step. In the red Phoenix star zone, in the endless white mist, the river of stars shone brightly. Within the river of stars, a huge black whirlpool spun. 100 years ago, the Queen Mother of the West used the final power of the Wang hairpin to bury her. The terrifying aura became clearer and clearer, making people shudder. Suddenly, in the depths of the star zone, a celestial sound was heard. 3 dragon corpses pulled a celestial palanquin and quickly left. No one knew where they came from or where they went. Divine treasures kept appearing in the various star zones. The remains of the ancient era gradually appeared in the human world. Battles broke out frequently. The chaotic world would never be peaceful again. While the world was in chaos, the riverbank of Mishui was still terrifyingly calm. Apart from the sound of the cold wind, no other sounds could be heard. After the last battle, no one came to the riverbank of Mishui anymore. The knowing destiny with 2 deity swords in hand and the support of 10,000 miles of earth chi turned Mishui completely into a forbidden area. 100 years had passed. The knowing destiny had reached the end of his lifespan. He looked at the divine tree in front of him with exhausted eyes. He struggled to support his body that was on the verge of collapse, waiting for the fruit to ripen. Outside the riverbank of Mishui, spring came again. Everything was recovering. Under the tree, the knowing destiny's eyes suddenly lit up. On the divine tree, the immortal peach of immortality's last trace of green faded. Golden light rose and red light shone. A powerful vitality that shook the world erupted. The 2 divine prohibitions around it dissipated instantly. When the immortal peach of immortality ripened, the aura of vitality spread. The dead Mishui River was instantly purified. The withered trees came back to life. The vermilion of the lake faded and returned to its original state. The 9 heavens sensed the appearance of an item that could change fate and turn life and death. Tens of thousands of thunderbolts filled the sky. With a low roar, the wrath of the heavens came down. Get lost! Under the tree, the knowing destiny who had been silent for countless days and nights shouted angrily. He waved his sword, splitting the sky. Chapter 790. At the bank of the Mi River, the peach of immortality had ripened. The clouds in the 9 heavens changed, and thousands of lightning bolts fell from the sky, wanting to destroy this heaven-defying item. Thousands of lightning bolts fell, and knowing destiny was enraged. He slashed with his sword, and the lightning bolts in the sky were scattered. The trapping immortal flew up into the sky, and rays of red light spread out, forming a barrier between heaven and earth. The lightning bolts rumbled, and kept hitting the immortal sword. It was difficult to pass the barrier. Below, Ning Chen walked to the divine tree step by step, looking at the ripened fruits. After a while, he waved his right hand and took the peach of immortality. At this moment, above the void in the distance, the void rolled, and the old monsters who had been waiting for many years appeared. They were all shocked and they saw the peach of immortality in Ning Chen's hand. The immortal divine medicine. Ning Chen ignored them. He waved his hand, and an ice coffin appeared in the crisscrossing sword light. Inside the coffin, the woman who had been sleeping for 100 years seemed to be sleeping peacefully. Stop him. Seeing this, the old monsters immediately realized what Ning Chen was going to do. Their expressions changed, and they all rushed forward. Dozens of figures of the virtual realm, corporeal realm, and even the true realm, each more powerful than the last. They were old monsters who had been sleeping for countless years, just waiting for the opportunity to live forever. Now that they had appeared, they rushed over recklessly. Ning Chen ignored them, and walked to the ice coffin with the fruit of the immortal divine tree. He opened the coffin with one palm, and the sword intent around him kept gathering, urging the power of the divine medicine to pour into the body of the woman in the ice coffin. Boom! The heavens were enraged by this heaven-defying action. The dark clouds in the sky turned blood red, and red lightning bolts fell from the sky, hitting the trapping immortal sword. The immortal sword shook, and even with the support of the earth chi, it showed signs of collapsing. Outside the Milky Water River, the figures of the old monsters flashed past and rushed forward. All of a sudden, from the ground, strange rays of light rose up. The Yellow Springs seal was activated, completely sealing off the area around the Mishui River. Break it! Without hesitation, the old monsters channeled their true origin to the limit, and attacked the Yellow Spring Forbidden Ground together. The majestic power hit the divine forbidden ground, and in an earth-shattering tremor, the Yellow Spring shook, and the seals shattered, showing signs of collapse. In the instant that the Yellow Springs were about to disperse, space-time began to twist and distort. Time appeared, instantly devouring the shockwaves of the collision. Two great divine restrictions appeared at the same time, blocking the attacks of the supreme beings. Heaven and earth rumbled, immortal swords rose and fell, resisting the fury of the heavens. Under the flat peach tree, it was peaceful. The white-haired man used his sword will to refine the power of the immortal divine herb, and slowly infused it into the body of the woman in the coffin. After a few breaths of time, the divine herb in Ning Chen's hand dissipated bit by bit and completely merged with the ghost woman's body. Ning Chen, who had exhausted a great deal of his strength and whose lifespan had completely dried up, staggered and spat out a mouthful of blood, dyeing the ice coffin red. After a brief moment of silence, a sudden change occurred. The bloody ice coffin exploded, and the figure of a ghost girl in a bright red wedding dress floated out. The aura around her continued to rise, becoming more and more terrifying. 9,000 years had been condensed into one body. At this moment, strange ghostly cries rang out between heaven and earth. The cries were solemn, stirring, and shocking. The void trembled as ghostly energy filled the air. Soldiers and ghostly generals appeared in the sky, numbering in the millions. They were illusory yet real. It was a shocking sight. Welcome, Yama King. Welcome, Yama King. Millions of soldiers knelt down to welcome the master of the underworld. The ancient phenomenon reappeared in the world, and it was difficult to distinguish between the real and the fake. Everyone present was shocked. Boom! Above the 9 heavens, crimson lightning fell crazily, colliding with the immortal sword again and again. Even the powerful trapping immortal couldn't withstand it. In the next moment, the clouds in the 9 heavens changed again. A golden brilliance appeared in the huge blood-red vortex, and the power of the crimson lightning multiplied. It shook off the immortal sword and descended to the world. In an instant, a figure in white flashed past, and with the last of her strength, she blocked the crimson lightning above the woman in the bright red wedding dress. A pool of blood splashed in the void. Ji Ming staggered, and blood kept dripping from his body. His broken body couldn't withstand it anymore, and it scattered bit by bit. In the distance, Qing Ning, who had rushed over, trembled violently. She covered her mouth, and tears fell from her eyes. Master! At this moment, an anxious voice rang out. Returned, and seeing the scene in front of her, she quickly rushed forward. Don't go over. Qing Ning grabbed the former and shook her head with tears on her face. This was his last wish, and they couldn't drag him down anymore. On the Mi River, thunder rumbled and ghosts sang. The ghost girl in the bright red wedding dress floated above the void, and the aura around her kept rising. Millions of Yin soldiers appeared and knelt on the ground. The ancient phenomenon appeared for the first time in the world. The Yama king of the underworld, who was in charge of life and death, shocked the world. In the next moment, the ghost girl's eyelids moved slightly, and her bright red wedding dress instantly turned into white armor. A terrifying aura swept out rapidly. Did it succeed? In the distance, Qing Ning looked at the figure standing in the void and murmured. The appearance of the Yama king shocked the world, and the ghosts sang even more deafening. The ghost chi in the air could be seen for thousands of miles. Welcome, Yama king. Welcome, Yama king. No one knew if it was real or a reflection of the ancient times, but millions of Yin soldiers kowtowed, welcoming the return of the Yama king. Life and death were about to be reversed. At the most critical moment, in the 9 heavens, day and night suddenly reversed. The sun and the moon were in the sky, and the pure heavenly light fell from the sky. In the blink of an eye, the Yin soldiers in the sky disappeared quickly, and the aura around the ghost girl showed signs of fading. Not far away, Knowing Destiny, whose body was about to fall apart, saw this and shouted. His sword intent went beyond his physical body, and the spirit of the 3 souls left his body. The sword light lingered, protecting the soul that had left his body for a short time. Out of the body, Ning Chen was no longer restricted. The light around his body shook, and the sword intent rose endlessly. The last of his strength turned into a sword that covered the sky, blocking the world. With a loud bang, the heavenly light burned and the sword light flashed. The godlike figure blocked the heavenly punishment with his body and protected the ghost girl. If there is an afterlife, you will be the king and I will be the subject. In the distant ancient times, the voice seemed to echo in his memory. Ji Ming's eyes gradually became clearer, and his aura rose to the peak of his life. Boom! The sound shook the world. At the top of the 9 heavens, the sun and the moon were in the sky. 4 ancient modeled celestial swords appeared, and the terrifying power shook the world. The imprint of the ancient times, the 4 fairy-slaying swords, reappeared in the world. The sword of destruction, engraved in the world, turned into a heavenly punishment and fell from the sky. The pressure was unprecedented, and the void collapsed. It was difficult to bear the power of destruction. Above the void, the venerables couldn't retreat in time. Waterfalls of blood exploded, and blood and bones scattered between heaven and earth. The 4 celestial swords arrived, destroying the world, and slashing toward the ghost girl in the void. Those who defied the heavens were not tolerated by the heavens, and must be eliminated. The moment a hero steps on the battlefield, he is ready to lose everything. I, Ji Ming, have already lost everything, but this moment is the proof of my heroism. With a long shout, 4 sword lights flew around Ji Ming. His natal, astral soul, fairy slaying, and fairy trapping were shining brightly. He and the sword merged together and faced the 4 fairy-slaying swords. Chapter 791. Above the Mi River, the sword light soared into the sky. Knowing Destiny burned his soul power, and the 4 swords collided with the 4 immortal slaying swords. The swords engraved in heaven and earth destroyed the heaven and earth, and the power of the immemorial celestial sword reappeared. The 8 swords collided with each other. There was a moment of silence, and then there was a scene of destruction. The 4 immortal swords of the immortal slaying swords were shattered. In the aftermath, the 4 swords fell silently and stabbed into the ground. The brilliance of the swords dimmed instantly. Above the immortal slaying sword and immortal trapping sword, the brilliance dimmed. Knowing Destiny's sword of life was broken, and his star soul cracked. The 4 swords that had accompanied Knowing Destiny throughout his life were all heavily damaged. In the sky, knowing Destiny's soul power was almost completely burned out. He didn't have time to look back for one last time. The sword will around him dissipated, and his soul dissipated bit by bit. In this life, he had tried his best. Below him, the ghostly woman in white armor slowly opened her eyes. Her eyes were empty and cold. At the boundary of life and death, the ghost girl who reversed reincarnation seemed to have her consciousness left in the abyss of death. There was no sign of life in her beautiful eyes. Feeling the change in the sky, the ghost girl raised her head and looked at the disappearing figure in the sky. After a moment of confusion, the figure flashed and came to the end of the sky. The obsession of thousands of reincarnations had already been deeply rooted in the soul. The ghost girl raised her hand, and the majestic life spiritual chi poured into the former's body. Yama, king of the underworld, the god in charge of the world of death, separated the yin and yang with the supreme power, and left knowing Destiny's soul in the human world. At this moment, on the pleasure boat in the lake, a strange light shone. Millions of resentful spirits left the heavenly book and soared into the sky. You have been resurrected. It's time for knowing Destiny Marquis to return what he promised us. He must die. Within the boundless resentment, twisted faces of hatred appeared and hovered in the sky. The resentment of millions of living beings, undying and indestructible, filled the entire world. Yin spirits? Above the void, the ghost girl's empty eyes looked at the resentment that filled the world. The majesty of the monarch of the world of death burst out, intimidating millions of resentful spirits. Insubordination, imprisonment for 100 years. While speaking, the ghost girl raised her right hand. Ghost chi spread and devoured all the resentful spirits in the sky. Ring ring. At this moment, a silver bell rang at the end of the world. 3 dragon corpses pulled the palanquin and arrived in front of the two in an instant. In the palanquin, a woman in a red wedding dress walked out. She wore a red veil that covered her beautiful face. The same aura, the same pressure, made it difficult for people to distinguish the real from the fake. Save him, the ghost girl said in a flat tone. The woman in the red wedding dress nodded and took the knowing Destiny's spiritual body to the front of the immortal divine tree. She flipped her hand and smashed the only immortal divine herb in the world. In an instant, boundless life origin energy overflowed, distorting heaven and earth. After a short while, ghostly flames filled the sky and forcefully merged the undying peach tree's life force with the knowing Destiny's spiritual body. The ghost flame burned, extreme yin gave birth to yang, and the phoenix origin recovered, crazily devouring the fire essence of heaven and earth. Outside the river, several true realm old monsters who had barely survived the heavenly punishment looked forward, exchanged glances, and charged forward without hesitation. Yen Di. The woman in the red wedding dress clenched her right hand, and a purple gold divine sword appeared in the red light. The moment it appeared in her hand, a powerful sword pressure swept out. Yen Di moved, and the yellow springs appeared. Several true realm old monsters joined hands to block the attack. With a loud rumble, blood dyed the night sky. Yen Di's cultivation was immeasurable, and the 6 true realm old monsters were at a disadvantage. Without saying anything, the woman in the red wedding dress rushed forward again. Her sword cut open the yellow springs, and 3 heads flew up. Red blood spurted out, blurring everyone's vision. Retreat. The remaining 3 true realm old monsters' expressions changed drastically. They immediately wanted to retreat, but it was too late. The red light arrived, and Yen Di took their lives. Life and death were clear. Broken bodies fell to the ground, and blood dyed the ground red. The slaughter in the dark night was so shocking. In a few breaths, the battle was over. The woman in red waved her hand and put away her sword. She looked back at the ghost girl and said, "Let's go." The ghost girl nodded and walked away. There was no color in her empty eyes. The two walked into the palanquin together, and the 3 dragons started their journey again, pulling the palanquin far away. In a flash, they disappeared into the night. If there is an afterlife, you will be my subject, and I will be your king. In the darkness, a voice from the ancient times echoed between heaven and earth. The Rakshasa ghost girl, the Yama king of the underworld, and the end of reincarnation, were waiting for the day when they could meet again. By the riverside, the soul of knowing destiny floated in the endless burning ghost flames. The phoenix bathed in the flames and gradually merged with the origin of the immortal tree, preserving a trace of life. Qing Ning walked over and looked at the illusory figure sleeping in the flames. Tears flashed in her eyes. Master! Yin wiped the tears on her face and cried sadly. Qing Ning rubbed her head and said, "Don't cry. There will be danger here at any time. Let's take your master away first." Okay. Yin wiped her tears and answered obediently. Qing Ning raised her hand and her whole body was shining. A green lotus appeared and surrounded by the breath of the lotus, protecting the knowing destiny soul in the ghost flame. Master, can you recover? Yin sobbed. Qing Ning nodded affirmatively. Yes. In the inner world, the northern plains was covered in snow. 100 years had passed. In the forbidden space of the heavenly music parlor, the sound of chains shaking could be heard. In front of the sound, the aura of a woman in a white dress kept rising. She shook off the chains on her shoulder blades. Mu Qingxue. The heavenly music parlor master appeared and looked at the woman in front of her. 100 years have passed. You are free. Mu Qingxue walked out and bowed respectfully. Thank you, parlor master. You don't have to thank me. It was a fair trade between us. Follow me. The knowing destiny Marquis is no longer in the inner world. Too many things have happened in the past 100 years. You need to know before you leave, the heavenly music parlor master said calmly. Mu Qingxue nodded and followed her. In the mountain pavilion, the heavenly music parlor master walked over with Mu Qingxue. The disciples of the heavenly music parlor made way for them. Some of the new disciples looked at the woman in white behind the parlor master strangely. Who was this person? Why had they never seen her before? Qing Ying. The heavenly music parlor master looked at the woman in front of the disciples and said, Master. Wu Qingying walked up and bowed respectfully. Tell her what happened in the past 100 years and the situation of the knowing destiny Marquis, the heavenly music parlor master said calmly. Yes. Wu Qingying accepted the order. She looked at the woman in white and sighed. 100 years had passed and she hadn't changed at all. Unfortunately, the knowing destiny Marquis path had come to an end. Mu Qingxue looked at the former's expression and his eyes narrowed. What happened? It's a long story. Wu Qingying sighed. Although I don't know where the knowing destiny Marquis is now, his lifespan has definitely come to an end. Mu Qingxue's body trembled. He said in disbelief, 100 years and he still hasn't become an immortal. How is that possible? Chapter 792. At the Jade Moon Lake, a huge waterfall poured down from the mountain with a deafening rumble. It washed the smooth stone walls over the years. Below, a green lake flowed east with splashes. The scenery of the mortal world was absolutely beautiful. Hundreds of miles of verdant green, quiet and aloof from worldly affairs. It was like an otherworldly paradise, making people feel relaxed and happy. In front of the Jade Moon Lake, a beautiful girl sat on a rock. She kept kicking her fair feet in the water to entertain herself. Come back for dinner. Qing Ning said as she walked out of a small courtyard surrounded by bamboo not far away. Oh! Heard her and jumped up. She ran back to eat. In the bamboo house, Qing Ning served the dishes and put more vegetables in the girl's bowl. She said, push your master out for a walk after dinner. Okay. Nodded obediently. She ate the food in her bowl with all her might. Her cheeks were full. Slow down, no one is fighting with you. Qing Ning wiped the rice grains from the girl's mouth and said softly. Hee hee. Laughed foolishly and continued to eat. On the bed in the house, a white-haired figure in plain clothes lay there quietly. He had slept for 10 years and still had not woken up. Qing Ning walked forward and looked at the sleeping figure on the bed. Her eyes dimmed. It had been 10 years. Why had he not woken up? Qing Ning cut open her right arm. Blood that contained vitality dripped down and entered the former's body silently. Day after day, 10 years passed. Every time a drop of blood fused with the plainclothed man, his illusory figure would become more solid. After 10 long years, he was almost completely solid. Qing Ning's blood flowed through every inch of the reborn body. The vitality of the immortal tree merged with the blood and turned into flesh and blood. It subtly repaired the broken body of the knowing destiny state. The Yama king of the underworld who controlled death, the immortal tree that reversed life and death, and the origin of the phoenix that could be reborn from fire worked together to protect the life of the knowing destiny state. At the dining table, finished her meal and ran outside to push the wheelchair in. She helped Ning Chen down from the bed and then pushed the wheelchair out of the house. Don't go too far. Don't cause trouble. Qing Ning walked to the front of the house and reminded her worriedly. Got it. Responded and pushed Ning Chen, who was in a wheelchair, out of sight. Qing Ning shook her head helplessly. This girl had been spoiled by Ning Chen. She was already so old, but she was still playful. Outside the Jade Moon Pool, in a small city that was about 100 miles away, pushed Ning Chen into the city, her big eyes filled with excitement. The streets of the city were bustling with noise and excitement. There was an endless stream of people coming and going, and all sorts of things were displayed in stalls along the streets, causing one to be dazzled. Auntie, I want a stick of candied haws. All right. When the woman selling candied haws saw the little girl in front of her, her eyes lit up. What a beautiful girl. Here. The woman took a stick of candied haws and handed it to the former. Thank you, Auntie. Paid for the candied haws and ate them happily. Miss, who is he to you? What happened to him? The woman looked at the white-haired man in the wheelchair and asked. This is my master. He's sick, so he can't wake up for now. I'm taking him out for a walk, smiled. What a pity. A look of regret flashed across the woman's face. This young man didn't look very old, but his hair was already completely white. It could be seen that his illness wasn't a small one. Auntie, don't worry. My master will definitely wake up. Replied with a smile and continued to push the wheelchair forward. The small city wasn't very big, but it was unexpectedly bustling. On the wheelchair, the white-haired man was sleeping quietly, as if he didn't notice what was happening outside. Master, wake up quickly. Once you wake up, you won't have to sit in the wheelchair anymore. Ate the candied haws while muttering heartlessly. Yo, what a pretty girl. After walking for a while, an irritating voice sounded. Raised her head and saw a young man dressed in luxurious clothes walking over. Behind him was a follower. It was obvious that he was a young master from a wealthy family. Don't cause trouble, don't cause trouble. Kept repeating Qing Ning's advice. She pushed the wheelchair around the two of them, intending to ignore them. Don't go. The young master took a step forward and blocked her path with a smile. Don't cause trouble, don't cause trouble. Muttered softly and changed her direction, preparing to leave. Let's go and have a drink with this young master. Seeing the girl in front of him giving in again and again, the young master felt an unbearable itch in his heart. He reached out to grab her arm and laughed. Drink your ass. Finally couldn't hold it in anymore and slapped him. With a bang, the young master in front of her was sent flying a few steps away. I don't want to cause trouble, yet you dare to rebel. You dare to take liberties with a woman from a good family? You must be tired of living. Put her hands on her waist and looked at the young master who was groaning in pain on the ground. Young master. The young master who was scared silly came back to his senses and quickly ran forward to help the young master up. He asked anxiously, Young master, are you all right? If you don't want to get beaten up again, get lost. Don't block my way. Since she had already caused trouble, didn't care anymore. She let go of her courage and shouted angrily. Just you wait. The young master crawled up pathetically and covered his face. He threatened her while retreating out of the crowd in fear. I'm waiting. The next time I see you, I'll definitely beat you up so badly that even your mother won't recognize you. When she saw the expressions of the people around her, as if they had seen a ghost, she immediately smiled brightly and said, Uncles, as you can see, I was forced. If there's anything, you have to testify for me. The crowd dispersed. No one wanted to get into trouble. So irresponsible. Seeing this, pouted. She pushed the wheelchair unhappily and continued to walk forward. Master, wake up quickly. Your cute disciple is about to be bullied. Took a bite of the remaining sugar-coated haws and said incoherently. Not far away, a man who was dressed differently stared at the girl in front of him. A dangerous aura constantly flashed in his eyes. Such a good furnace was really rare in the world. Why? Have you taken a fancy to that girl? Beside the man, a woman dressed seductively asked. A good furnace cannot be wasted, the man said gloomily. It's best if we don't act rashly. Before completing the mission the Saintess gave us, we cannot reveal our identities, said the woman. No problem, it's just a girl. I'll leave the man in the wheelchair to you. Although he's a sickly person, it's better than nothing, said the man. The woman thought for a moment and nodded. Although that girl had some cultivation, as long as they did it cleanly, no one would be able to find out. Boss, give me 2 buns. In front of a bun stall, stopped and bought 2 steaming buns. She then ate as she walked. Uncle, cut me a plum blossom cake. In front of a pastry stall, bought a plum blossom cake and then continued to walk around. Aunt, I want a bowl of tofu pudding. For an entire day, walked around the city. Her little mouth did not stop for even a moment. She bought whatever she saw. She walked around for an entire day and ate for an entire day. At dusk, reluctantly looked at the streets that she had not finished walking around. She turned around and walked back the way she came. She definitely had to find a chance to come again. Next time, she would try to get more money from Sister Qing Ning. Outside the city, pushed Ning Chen out. After walking for a short while, she felt that something was off. Turned around and looked around. She coldly said, Come out. Don't hide anymore. Little girl, you're not simple. You noticed so quickly. A man and woman walked out. The man was gloomy and sinister, while the woman was seductive. Their auras were mixed, and they didn't look like righteous people. Why are you following me? Asked unhappily. What an impolite girl. It seems I'll have to properly teach you a lesson, sneered the seductive woman. Leave this girl to me. You take away that man, said the man coldly. Oh, you don't even have him yet. All right, I won't disturb you. The seductive woman's figure flashed, and she reached out to grab the man in the wheelchair. Seeing that, was furious. She stepped in front of the wheelchair and extended her hand to block the woman's palm. With a peng sound, the two's palms collided. Vigorous true yuan exploded, and the charming woman's figure was pushed back a few steps. Her expression became serious, she had underestimated this little girl. Be careful. She's a tough one, said the woman. Yes. The man nodded and stamped his foot. He instantly rushed forward and raised his hand to grab Een-Er's shoulder. Een-Er's figure flashed, and a scarlet sword came out of its sheath. She moved, and sword light shot out. Not far away, the seductive woman rushed forward to assist the man. After several exchanges, the shockwaves shook the area. Een-Er was worried about Ning Chen behind her, and her attacks were severely restricted. It was difficult for her to gain the upper hand. In the deadlock, the three of them constantly crossed each other. Dust and sand flew everywhere, and the ground cracked. Seeing that it was difficult to control Een-Er, the seductive woman looked at the man in the wheelchair in front of her. She thought of something and reminded the man. Her figure flashed and she rushed forward. Sensing the woman's goal, Een-Er was furious. She changed the direction of her sword and stabbed it toward the woman. Your opponent is me. The man blocked in front of her. He flipped his palm and blocked the sword light. With a bang, the battle broke apart. Between the two of them, the earth rumbled and cracked open. Let's go. The seductive woman grabbed the man in the wheelchair. She didn't continue fighting and quickly left. If you want to save him, then come with us. The man sneered and sent out another palm strike. He quickly followed. Een-Er was furious. She scattered the palm strike with her sword. Her figure flashed, and she chased after them recklessly. As the sun gradually set, the three of them flashed and disappeared in the blink of an eye. In front of the Jade Moon Pool, Qing Ning, who had been waiting for the two of them to return, saw that the sky was gradually darkening. The two of them still hadn't replied, and she felt increasingly uneasy. After waiting for a while longer, Qing Ning's mood gradually sank. She didn't wait any longer and rushed in the direction Een had gone. Not far from the small city, where the three of them were fighting, Qing Ning rushed over. When she saw the empty wheelchair, her pupils shrank. Something had happened. She could vaguely sense the remnant aura. Qing Ning looked to the west. She didn't dare hesitate and immediately chased after them. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.